In this episode of Another Zelda podcast, David and Kate get together to talk about what it was like to play Skyward Sword. Hello and welcome to Another Zelda podcast. I am your host, David Geisler, along with my co-host, Kate May.
Hello!
Kate, how are you?
I'm good! I'm excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today. How are you?
That was an interesting sentence. It started with genuine excitement, and then it got kind of ominous.
I mean, it's going to be fun.
Guys, the look on Kate's face right now, there's a glimmer behind her eyes, and I don't know if it's a happy one.
It's mischievous.
Yeah.
So many Skyward Sword hot takes today.
Interesting. Yeah, today we are reviewing Skyward Sword. We both play Skyward Sword HD, but we're going to consider this our Skyward Sword review episode.
Yes.
We're not going to necessarily focus too much on the differences between the two because they're few and far between.
Yeah.
Few and far in between, as I understand it, and I think that narratively this will act correctly. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like a Skyward Sword thing. When we did Twilight Princess, I think, did you play Wii Twilight Princess or did you play Twilight Princess HD? I did HD.
I did not play HD.
You know, these HDs, there's not much different about them.
No.
They're usually just running in a higher resolution and all of that. Maybe a couple changes, which I guess we'll talk about with the Skyward Sword one. But usually, unlike the Majora's Mask remake for the DS, which was not an HD, it was literally a new title. Mm-hmm. Which means it's a slightly different take. I don't think that's the case here. All right, Skyward Sword. I think let's just go right into listener feedback. I'm kind of ready to get into this episode.
I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about.
That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, let's go straight into listener feedback.
No need to vamp up in
the
beginning here.
Don't beat around the bush.
We're not beating around any bushes. Okay, here we go. I've got a little listener feedback for today. This one's over on Apple Podcasts. Justin Pollitt said he gave us a 5-star review. Thank you so much. That's always super helpful. And the title here is Saved from Work Boredom. And Justin says, "Hi, my name is Justin. I work in a glass factory in Indiana, and it's rather boring, to the point where I don't really have to think about what I'm doing. I usually just listen to music, but I got an itch to hear about Zelda stuff, so I got on YouTube and found this show. I won't pay for YouTube for it to run while my phone is asleep, but thankfully, you're here on Apple Podcasts. I started with Season 4 just because that's what popped up first, and I'm currently on the Majora Mask Grief episode. This podcast helps me get through the day, helps me not think about the fact that I'm at or other troubles going on in my life. I'm looking forward to spending 6 to 8 hours a shift listening to more, LOL. Thank you."
Oh boy, that's a lot of us.
That is a lot of us, Justin. Thanks for listening. Hopefully we keep you company. I also don't pay for the subscription YouTube. I'm more than happy with my ads. And you're absolutely right. We're on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify. In fact, you know, it's kind of funny because I really do hear a lot about people, quote unquote, finding us on YouTube. That happens so often. And you and I, we talked about that in the beginning of doing this show, that should we even put these episodes on YouTube because it is just audio.
Right.
But I think it's been beneficial.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
It's I think maybe things pop up in the search algorithms a little quicker on YouTube, and then people tend to find us then on like whatever podcast service they use. Yeah. Over here, Chloe Patient, over at, it looks like Instagram, sent us a message and said, "Hey guys, Hey guys, just to say you have been an absolute lifesaver over the past couple of months since I discovered your podcast on Spotify. I've absolutely loved all your episodes, and they are so good to listen to in the evening when I'm relaxing before bedtime. Thank you so much for being you, from a listener in Manchester, England.
Cool.
P.S. Although I miss Kate in the later episodes, you all do an amazing job. Please keep them coming." Well, now we got a great mix of everything.
Hey.
Yeah.
It's a big family now.
It is. Thank you, Chloe. Chloe, Chloe. What do you think? Is that Chloe?
Probably.
I think so. Awesome. Over in Manchester, England. And we really appreciate you listening.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Nice.
What do we have here? Oh, this was a comment on our website. So if you go to the anotherzeldapodcast.com, technically you can set up a small account, which allows you to put comments right under blog episodes and stuff like that, or blog posts or episode posts and things. And so Luca Hughes, this screen grab is a little bit zoomed in, so it's going to be hard for me to see. But Luca Hughes here said, hello, AZP. I have just discovered your show, and I'm loving it. A lot of like discovery vibes in our listener feedback today. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hello, AZP. I've just discovered your show, and I'm loving it. I especially like the music of Skyward Sword episode. Yeah, what was that, back in season 1, maybe?
Yeah.
The episode, and I was amazed that Zelda's lullaby is the Ballad of the Goddess backwards. I remember you pointed that out, Kate.
Mm-hmm.
I have just caught up with your latest episode, and I was so excited when Kate came back.
Nah.
Luca, okay, bye. a lot of Kate love, and a lot of finding us, finding our show randomly. Very
Awesome.
nice. Luca Hughes, thank you. Again, that was over on anotherzeldapodcast.com. Lastly, we have a podcast or a comment over on YouTube. Rachel Sislow said, in regards to our world building episode, which is the one that we did with the Coons, you and I, the second to last episode is season 4. Rachel says, "Hi AZP, another great episode. My husband," I know, I see why this one's in here. "Hi AZP, another great episode. My husband and I are playing Skyward Sword. We're stoked about it since it's the first game we've been able to do together. Perhaps maybe like neither of them knew about it first, so you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you play a game that your partner or spouse has already played, or vice versa, there's that they kind of already know where you should go, or you already know where the
Right.
partner should go.
Right.
When you're learning together, that is fun and special.
Yeah.
But we somewhat agree with the lack of detail in the worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you and I were both kind of talking about that in our world building episode. We're going to try and finish in time for your review. Well, that's this episode here, Rachel. So I hope you've done it. Otherwise, wait, stop now.
No pressure.
So we will all be looking forward to that. Cheers, and then heart emoji.
Nice.
Cool.
How appropriate. Here we are.
Yeah. So these get kind of collected and sorted by a few of us now. So sometimes I know what they say, and sometimes I don't. And that was great. That was tons of fun.
Cool. Thanks,
Um,
everybody.
Kate,
Yes. How can I help you?
when we did record our world building episode, you and I were in the thick of playing Skyward Sword.
Mm-hmm.
It was a couple months ago, as of this recording. And I remember, I'm gonna be playful here, but I remember a little bit of sass coming from you when it came to playing Skyward Sword. I don't want to start off on a negative tone, but I'm only informed by that reaction that you had ups and downs with this game.
Correct. Was that a flying on a bird pun? Ups and downs?
Oh,
Pun intended?
No, it wasn't. But that could be part of it. For starters, all I want to ask you, and then I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna do what we do for our classic review episodes. We'll probably talk about some of the main characters.
Sure.
Then we'll probably transition into going through all the dungeons and any thoughts that come along the way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of side quests in this game, as there are with a lot of Zelda games. If we really truly were gonna do all the gratitude crystals, we'd be here a long time. I did not do all the gratitude crystals. I did many, but that's like, we're gonna speak to it in that way, not in a completionist way.
Right.
Though I know for me, the first 2 or 3 hours of playing Skyward Sword, I know what that felt like for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hold on to that right now, and I'm going to ask you the same question. When you booted up the game, what was going on?
So I was excited to start it and excited to start playing. I like the beginning of the game. With my experience with Skyward Sword, I get more frustrated as it goes on.
Interesting.
To the point where almost toward the end of the game, I'm like really, really frustrated with it. So at the beginning, I'm like, this is great. Like, I can explore. There's not much you literally can do. You can't even access certain areas, most areas. I like exploring the Knight Academy and just kind of walking around and getting used to the story, getting used to the controls, because I was playing it on Switch this time around.
Yes.
So learning those differences and understanding those and different ways that I could play the game. But I like the start of it. I like the way it begins. I like that it begins with the bird sticking his head through the window and it makes you laugh right away. Like,
Super
it's
cute.
just kind of a cute, fun moment when you're like, oh, I have warm fuzzies for this game after all. And then I eventually extinguish those warm fuzzies later. But yeah, no, I was excited to get going with this, and I do like the beginning of the game a lot. I did steal something from the YouTube channel Girlfriend Reviews.
I love that channel.
I love them too. And so they named their own character I Farted.
Did they? I forgot this part.
I did the same thing because
you literally played the whole game with your name I Farted?
I farted.
It's so mature.
Because I needed to see all the examples of them, other characters saying, I'm sorry, I farted.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
Help me, I farted.
It's like if you put my dude in Ocarina of Time, a lot of fun things happen. Everybody's like super chill. They're like, go forth, my dude, in Ocarina of Time.
I just like, there was a lot of like apologizing in Skyward Sword in the dialogue. So it was always like, I'm sorry, I farted.
Jeez.
And it made me laugh. So that was an attempt to bring some of the joy back into the
Sure.
game.
It didn't ruin the lore for you, huh?
No. I farted.
Okay.
I loved it. I'm a child.
Well, I put Link in, but I've talked about this 100 times. Since starting this podcast, I always put Link in now so that it's Link, canonically or whatever in my head. But before recording this show, I always put my name in for Zelda games. But now I put Link. And I do want to address the control thing a little bit. That I chose to pretty much from the get-go, with the exception of maybe 20 minutes, I played this entire game with the Pro Controller controls. Mm-hmm. Some people play it all the way through and even prefer it with the Switch Joy-Cons about controls. Did you try one or the other?
I did both.
Yeah.
What I ended up using more was the motion-oriented controls.
We haven't talked about this before recording. We actually haven't talked about this game at all on purpose for this episode. I did not expect you to say that.
Yeah. I mean, I did try it the other way around, and every once in a while I had to play the handheld version because like Bill was watching something on TV or playing his own game, so I was having it handheld. And though I still could use the motion controls even if I was using the
switched in handheld mode,
right?
I guess you can use all the gyro stuff, but you're probably not like throwing bombs with flicking the switch around, right? You're probably doing it with your R stick.
I'm trying to remember. No, I think I did use I was using
Holy moly.
Yeah, I don't know why. And I didn't love the efficacy of it still, but for whatever reason, I just gravitated more toward that version than using the Pro Controller itself.
Yeah.
Although the Pro Controller was nice when it was in like really sword heavy areas where it was just more accurate and easier to use the stick itself.
Yeah. I want to interject for a second. The forward stab on Pro Controller mode is a lifesaver.
Yes.
Just clicking in on that R stick is leaps and bounds better than like jabbing things into space in front of you.
Correct. I feel like I probably should have also used it more often when doing the fatal strike, because there were so many times when I tried to do it and I was shaking those controls and he just did not do it. And I was like screaming at my TV like, no, because it's so important in many parts of this game where you need to do that to like beat the boss. So. Yeah,
you're right. So I'm visualizing you with. So you've got your Joy-Cons. So I'm visualizing an experience where you've got it up on the TV. You're in docked mode, playing with the Joy-Cons, perhaps with the little clicker clicks in, and perhaps the little straps around your wrist, or who knows what. Like you're kind of emulating full Wii mode or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to? I did the handheld mode for a little bit. I thought it was fine, but I knew from months before playing this game, I knew I wanted to try the Pro Controller mode. And I had expressed that in previous episodes back in like season 2. Very excited about the R stick as the sword. So I never even, I don't know. I never did the handheld motion control, or, not dock mode, but handheld mode motion controls. Whenever I did that, I played in Pro Controller mode, in handheld mode. Am I making sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can go into the menu, and even if you have your Joy-Cons clicked onto the side of your, so it gets a little more complicated. When I play handheld mode, I have some Hori, Hori handheld Joy-Cons that are handheld only. They don't rumble, and they don't have the gyro in them. But I really like them. They're a little bigger, and I really like how the buttons feel, and I love the bigger kind of Nintendo 64-ish analog sticks. So usually when I'm playing handheld, I'm honestly playing with that, which means that the Switch feels that they're not Joy-Cons, so it immediately defaults to Pro Controller mode.
Gotcha.
But I did one day, I was on a road trip and I played handheld mode, and I noticed that my gyroscope stuff was still working. And I had to go into the menu and turn off motion control mode, even though it was in handheld mode. There's a lot of different modes here. And I had to switch it to pro controller mode so that all the buttons did just what a normal pro controller would do.
Gotcha.
I think that just to address the controls right off the bat, for me, I think 80% worked great. Like 80% of let me put it this way. All of the buttons on the controller, for the most part, I was super cool with. The harp on X, I kept forgetting that harp was on X. I kind of forgot some of the digital controls on the digital crosshairs. But for the most part, I thought everything was pretty well done. And the thing that you have to learn along the way is like every single item you get has some kind of R stick analog. That's funny, an analog stick. To be an analog to, so like let's just talk about the bombs real quick. I don't want to get too far into the nitty gritty. I want to start talking about characters. But
sure.
When you throw a bomb, when you have a bomb in Skyward Sword, in the real world, you can either do an overhand toss and you throw the bomb, or you can do an underhand toss and you kind of roll the bomb like a bowling ball.
Yep.
In the real world, once you know to do that in the old Wii mode or in motion control mode, even on the Switch, I'm sure that's actually probably, all things considered, pretty intuitive. You can probably throw those bombs out pretty quickly. I will admit that on the Pro Controller side, it gets a little janky. You push your R button, then you push your R stick, and then you have to hold it a certain way, and then you release. Then while you're holding it, you push R again to execute the move, and all of a sudden, 3 to 4 button presses equal just doing an overhand pitch with a Joy-Con.
Yeah.
So that is one example where the motion controls are far better than the Pro Controller.
Yeah, I agree.
But for a lot of the other stuff, anytime I was sword fighting, anytime I was doing anything with the bug net, there's a few others that were fine for me. Flying the clampy bug, the bug beetle, drone, whatever it is, that was perfectly fine for me. So the only time there was just a few times where the R stick interpretation of how you would handle this in a motion control mode got super janky, and that's why I say 80%. Yeah, is because 80% of the time I felt like I loved it in Pro Controller mode. All right, there's my long-winded address there. Did you have any stop gates using mostly motion control mode?
Like I said, the sword play was difficult with that. I more so got the hang of it this time around, where, like you said, that like forward strike was a lot easier on the controller mode rather than motion, because you would often do something else that's not the thing you wanted to do. But I still use the motion controls for some reason. I don't. Maybe I just like pretending like I'm swinging a sword. I don't know. But I did find the bomb throwing easier with the motion controls, like you said. I think, I don't know. I didn't. You
did, because you played most of it in motion controls. It did mean that you had free camera access on that right stick. That was probably nice.
That's probably the biggest reason, because I have to be able to like swing the camera around. And I know you can on the Pro Controller, but you have to like hold down a button right while you're doing that.
Both of you and I have mentioned this in the past. We both use the free camera on Zelda games a lot. I sometimes use the camera analog stick more than my motion control stick or my walk around stick. I look around at everything, and I know you do too.
Right.
For Skyward Sword, the default on the R stick is sword moves.
Right.
You hold L, not ZL, but L, the little guy. You hold L, and then on the bottom of the screen, there's a context-sensitive thing that says, like, use R to look around, right? It's like, look with R. And then the R button works like a normal, like Wind Waker HD, like Twilight Princess HD, like Breath of the Wild. Absolutely normal camera, and it's awesome. I played, I don't know, 95%. I'm doing percents in this episode, apparently. 95% of this episode with that dang L button held down.
Yeah.
Anytime, basically, if I wasn't sword fighting, I just held L, and that was kind of annoying, I have to admit.
Yep.
I really wish, and I said this previously, I wish there was a toggle to invert that, where like you hold L for sword fighting, but it's okay. Yeah. So I loved the free camera. The tricky part is that then sometimes I go back to Breath of the Wild and I start pushing L. I start bringing up my runes or whatever, because I'm so used to pushing L after 40 hours of Skyward Sword.
Right.
But ultimately, I loved that the free camera was included. I almost can't even remember how I played this game with only the Z trigger putting the camera behind back in the Wii days. I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess there's controls.
Yep.
All right, so we've addressed it.
Done.
Some of the other HD things I loved. The 60 FPS. The frame rate was beautiful.
Yes.
I loved the graphics. I loved them being a
Yes.
little cleaner. I loved that they kind of still maintained some of that blurry, painty thing, but it was super minimized.
Yes.
That I could look into the distance and see what I was actually looking at.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Yeah,
So
I
thought-
liked it a lot.
Yeah, I thought all that was perfect. I really did.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do some characters. Obviously, let's start with Link. How do you feel about Link's interpretation in this game?
I think it's interesting that he speaks in this game. You don't hear him speak, but you can see him speaking.
Does he have text dialogue?
He doesn't. So it's weird. He acts as if he's speaking. Like he's opening his mouth, and you can tell that he's telling a story.
Oh,
You don't see any text. You don't hear a voice. But there's so many other games where he's just silent, like
Interesting.
silent, like does not say anything. He might laugh or kind of make a face.
yeah.
But in this one, you'll see him be like, "Oh, blah 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 blah," like because they'll be like, "Oh, tell me what happened," and you'll see him moving his mouth and talking.
I don't remember this at all. Is it like the camera kind of frames itself behind him so we don't have to see, or do you like full on the camera's like far away and you full on see him gesticulating and
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah, the latter. Yeah,
Boy, I
just
missed that part.
it's a couple times, but I just thought it was interesting that like he has a voice. We don't hear it, we don't see it, but he's definitely a normally talking human
Yeah,
in a way,
yeah.
like because I feel like that's unusual. I like his character design. I think it's cool. I think it's cool that he doesn't start in the traditional Link outfit that is eventually presented to him.
Yeah, and they lore motivate that a little bit by
Right.
use, because one of the first things you see is a character in what you would think to be the Link outfit, but the character's wearing yellow. And it's a little odd. You're like, what? Wait, are there houses? Is it like is this Gryffindor? What is going on? And then they reveal that every year there's a slightly different color of this outfit. So there's like a little bit of history behind where those outfits come from in the first place, which I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and then it's like wink, wink. This one's green.
Yeah, there's a bit of that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about what do you think Link's age is in this game?
I mean, this
Is he in
seems-
high school? I'm sorry.
I can't decide if it's like high school or college. It seems like either like a private, high school-ish type
Interesting.
scenario, or maybe he's a little older. But yeah, it's probably high school age because he's just kind of maybe starting to like girls and
Yes, yeah. I don't want to get too far off, but there's basically not a rom-com, but there's kind of a little romance storyline right off the bat here. There's like a high school story,
Yeah.
right off the bat with Link and Zelda wanting to talk to each other. Oh, I meant to say something to you. Longing looks at each other.
Mhm.
All of it.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to say one more thing about Link, but then we'll go to Zelda off this beat. I think for me, I think Twilight Princess Link might be the oldest Link we've ever played.
That makes sense.
And I think he's probably only 17 or 18 still, maybe even younger. But we know that in Ocarina of Time, young Link is 7 and old Link is 14, which is still pretty young
Mhm.
because there's a 7-year jump.
Mhm.
I do feel like Skyward Sword Link is older than 14,
Yeah. I agree.
So he might be in the he might be just a year or two younger than the Twilight Princess Link. Just to none of this really matters too much, but just because it is interesting. Honestly, it wasn't even me that thought about this. It was Ginxie as I was playing Skyward Sword. She said something like, "Oh, he looks older in this one," or "Oh, he looks younger in that one," because I was also playing Twilight Princess HD, and she's observed this as a person who doesn't know anything about the canon, and it made me really consider. Oh, there are different. I wonder if the age of Link informs the tone and style of the game as well.
Interesting.
Anyways, Zelda is not a queen yet or
No,
anything.
no.
Zelda's very normal. She's just like another student at the school.
Yeah, you can tell she's still like special at the school. Like she's like the popular girl, but not the mean one. She's like the nice popular girl. I think.
Yeah, I
where-
agree. I was thinking about how rare that is sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. She seems, a little unsure of herself. She's not super confident. She doesn't really maybe know her place, just yet. She likes the traditions. She's proud of the traditions, I think.
Well, I think the tradition thing, isn't her dad the headmaster of the school then, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a bit of that. There's, I don't know. I definitely had some fellow classmates who had a parent as a teacher in grade school or high school, and they always have a slight tone where they understand the slightly bigger picture, right? I don't know. Have you had that experience with any fellow students or anything growing up? Like I remember there was a gal that was in my class, but her dad was a 6th grade teacher. So she kind of watched herself a little more. She maybe wouldn't goof off quite as much, even though we were in 4th grade or whatever, right? You know, there's that kind of thing.
Right.
I feel like that's kind of what Zelda's channeling a little.
Yeah.
And certainly when they go home, her dad's, I don't think overbearing at all, but you can imagine he is definitely making the responsibility of some of these characters pretty clear. And I think she's respecting that.
Yeah. I think it's kind of funny later in the game, like once she's like definitely in trouble and you go like talk to her dad, he's like, I'm confident in you. I'm like, shouldn't you be like more worried?
Yeah, that was a little weird.
He's just kind of like gazing off into the distance, like, do something, dude. He's just standing there waiting, but
yeah, he's like, I know you'll take care of it. Well, I know she's safe. Gabora is Gapora, I mean, actually. But yeah, he's that was definitely one of those moments where I got pulled out of the game just a little bit when I was like, all right, shouldn't you like go with me? But it's all right. Okay, so let's deal with some of the other characters. We have a fan favorite in Groose.
Mm-hmm.
I hated Groose the first time I played this game.
Same.
Even when he quote unquote got better, I didn't care for him. This is 10 years ago.
Right.
But this time around, I was fine. I was in.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Groose, I get you. I get you, bud.
I don't know. Maybe the music makes it worse. Like it's kind of. I'm like,
That's
okay,
exactly.
that's like, all right, we get it. Thank you. Like I don't know. Maybe it was like too much with the music too. I don't know. I know he has his cronies, but even they're kind of like, okay, this guy sometimes, which is pretty funny. Like they don't hate Link as much as Groose does. So he's kind of.
Yeah, I would argue that little blue-haired kid though almost starts hating Link more than Groose does towards the end.
Well,
he gets upset.
It depends on which way you go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. We can talk about that. I went the way where he does not like you.
Right.
Same. But anyway, yeah. So Groose, I think the first time I played 10 years ago, I disliked Groose so much as the bully in the beginning that I emotionally, I guess, 30-year-old David didn't want to forgive Groose. I wasn't up for it. I was like, get out of here, you didn't learn your lesson. But 40-year-old David was like, oh, there's growth. There's growth.
Right.
This guy's okay.
Groose growth.
But also I think I had a little more pity for Groose this time around, where it was more like, oh, that's cute. Where it's like, oh, that's cute. He's decided he's going to help in the land here. You know what I mean? He's going to help the old lady. He's found his way to justify his means, and he does literally help you.
Yeah,
he does. I will say he's fully supportive by the end, and even like actually, yeah. I want to round all this out by also talking about how Groose by the end. I think there's a moment towards the end where he literally is holding Zelda, and he's not. He has completely let go of quote unquote trying to make her his or anything like that. He totally understands the bigger picture at that point.
Yeah.
And that is cool.
Yeah, I do like I like that journey for him. So yeah, no, I agree with you completely. I like him more this time around. And I also, because I actually beat the game this time around, spoiler alert, I got to see more cutscenes at the end with him.
Yeah.
So it was a better, more complete picture. And I do like his connection with Granny, quote unquote, you know what he calls her. Like it's nice that he was able to find, because I don't think he had a person like that at the Night Academy. He didn't have a person like he really connected with and felt close to, and this was like so clearly like a motherly or grandmotherly figure to him that was cute.
He still has a lot of ego, but he finds a way to rationalize it, I think, and like where to place it, and that is kind of nice. Let's talk about Impa.
Okay, yeah.
I dig Impa in this game.
Yes, both iterations.
I think so.
Yeah. I just like the character design of both Impas, honestly. I think she's the most interesting looking character in both her old and younger form.
I had never thought that such a slender, tiny, thin character design could be, pardon me, but so badass.
Yeah.
Like she's ready to kick butt.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. I also love like the clock hair, like the pendulum hair.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really cool. Just a really cool design. I like the voice effects that they have for her. I don't know. It was just a really cool realized character that you want to help very much. Like she's very sympathetic but strong at the same time. Like you want to help her, but like she'll also be okay.
She's a little unforgiving. Like in a like a there are times where she flat out's talking to Link and saying like you showed up too late.
Yep.
And that's a story thing. There's no way that the character can literally play the game to get there sooner.
Right.
But it's not a you're not good enough way, but it is kind of a you weren't good enough this time way. And I think she does put weight onto Link's journey of so the thing with Link is that almost every single Zelda game, there's certainly that spectrum between Ocarina and I guess Skyward Sword, so I'm including Twilight and Wind Waker and all that the whole reluctant hero thing is played up in all of those games where Link doesn't start as a hero and eventually learns the responsibility and eventually really cares about what he's doing. I do think that journey is here in Skyward Sword for Link.
For sure. There are multiple characters, I think, telling him, like, you just don't have it. Yeah. Right. Like, you need to be stronger. Your sword sucks. Like, you're not... Like, you just need to do better. So I think that motivates him and, his cause. And obviously helping Zelda is a huge motivation because he's very concerned about her.
Yeah, and we'll get into that when we get into our dungeons, what motivates him through each dungeon. I can't wait to return to that point.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, as we go along here, I think we should talk about Fi. Do you say Fi or Fi?
Both, probably.
Yeah.
It's probably...
Go either way.
Yeah. I don't know if I lean toward one or the other.
I'll probably say Fi.
All right. I'll say Fi then. How about that? You'll do one and I'll do the other, and that way our listeners cannot get mad.
No, it's absolutely right. It's absolutely right. And then when we return to Skyward Sword a year from now, I'll say Fo and you say Fum.
Okay.
I held down to that one for like 3 seconds.
Wow.
So, Fi.
You mean Fi? Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about Fi. I appreciate that one change in the HD is that her interruptions are no longer forced. They're optional.
Right. Oof. Yeah. I like her design. I like the like shininess, like her kind of android appearance, but she also has like cool leggings. So she's an ice skater. So with wings. She's like one of those, the Sky Dancer toys. Like,
oh my gosh, she really does look like those. The ones with the girls would like pull the zip line and then they spin and fly up,
exactly.
Right? The fairies that go up.
Yes.
I was babysitting some kids in my teenage years and they had those toys. And I was babysitting the kids. It was a normal, natural night. And they were playing with their sky fairies or whatever those things were called. And twice the fairies flew up into the chandelier and broke the chandelier while I was babysitting these kids. This is a true story that happened to David Geisler when he was 14 years old or whatever I was. 16 years old when I was babysitting. And I was terrified because literally glass fell down.
Yeah.
None of the kids got hurt or anything. And then I thought, I'm going to have to explain this to the parents when they come home who are paying me my $12 and a frozen pizza so that I could like watch the kids while they go have date night. And I was terrified. Fortunately, the parents were super cool. But yeah, those dang sky fairies are traumatized in my brain now.
Yeah.
I'm traumatized.
Yep. And, Fi is one of those.
I think so I'll speak. So Ginxie did watch me play a fair amount of this game, and she actually played the first couple dungeons on her own as well, not connected to this episode, but it just happened. And after she played a while, she really liked Fi because she said, "Oh, Fi's a data scientist." And she's taking all the data in, she's assessing the risk and just giving you that, and there it is. And so in that way, I get it. I think that was kind of funny. I think if the percentages weren't so clearly part of the script, and if they actually were data, I would love Fi. If literally all the words Fi said were the same words, except when she said you have a 90% chance in this area, and it was actually based on my play style and what's still there, or if there's more enemies or less, or if I've defeated 50% of the enemies and that percentage change now goes from 90 to 95 next time she talks. If that was a dynamic number,
right,
I'm all in on the lore of Fi. But because it's scripted, it loses any kind of impact for me.
Right, relevance, yeah. By the way, you are correct. It is Fi. I looked
Fi. Oh, yeah. Is there like a pronunciation?
Yeah. So now no one really can get mad. No, I totally agree with you. I also think some of the things they had her say were just so unnecessary. Like, ooh, there's a 90% chance Zelda was here. Like, no, Of course she was. That's why we're here. Like,
Yeah.
I really don't need this from you right now. And I think a lot of people have the same kind of annoyance with that. I do love her themes, like music associated with her.
Mhm.
I think the face that she makes when singing is horrifying.
It's a rough animation.
It looks very scary. She
Yeah.
looks like a shrieking banshee.
She really does. She really does. There's a few times where some of our characters kind of sing. Even Groose has a moment. And I got to say, when I saw that, when Fi sings, it feels like the animators animated her before the music was written. It feels like they animated her and then, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't line up at all.
Right. Also, apparently she's genderless, but I think, according to the Zelda wiki, but I think she's clearly female. But
yeah, I think there's a female persona there, a female voice and stuff like that. But yeah, technically, I don't think Fi is a creature.
Not human, right?
Yeah,
because she is the spirit of the sword, basically. Yeah, so she's helpful sometimes.
I mean, in many ways, she's a computer program. Is what you know what I mean? There's a magical embodiment of like a computer program. Is kind of the idea.
Yeah,
I didn't mind that take.
Yeah,
I thought that was fine.
No, I like that. I just think some of the dialogue could have just been scrapped, or not even dialogue, just the announcements.
How do you feel about Beetle in this game? This might be my favorite Beetle. I mean, I think Breath of the Wild Beetle's my favorite, but this might be my favorite Beetle.
Yeah, I don't think the first time I played I realized how nuanced he was.
Right.
Where he turns into, this is another thing that's really similar to the novel I'm reading. So the last episode we recorded about favorite dwellings, I was talking about the fantasy novel that I'm reading and how it kind of aligns. There's a character in this novel that I'm reading who's like, at one point, like a court jester, but then he's actually like very serious and smart. And so it reminds me a lot of Beetle. So I don't know, maybe the author is a Zelda fan, but, no, I think he is hilarious and awesome. I love visiting his shop. And then when you leave and without buying anything, he's like, "Excuse me?"
Yeah. He's like, "I pedaled so hard with you up here."
It's very heavy. Like, you're very heavy. Like, I think he calls you fat. I'm pretty sure.
Do you realize how heavy you are? Something like that.
Yeah.
No.
But I don't think the first time I played, I went to his island.
I don't think I did either, and that changed everything for me.
Yeah, because you visit him at night, and he's like, "Hello, good sir," blah, 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 and like talking completely differently than in the daytime when he's like, "Thank you," and that's it.
Yeah, he has his own little respite there on his island. The first time I went to his island was by accident. I just saw the bed, and I thought, "Oh, I can sleep here," you know?
Yeah.
And also, later in the game, I was speaking to him, and he said something like, "Hey, if you want to come back to my island," maybe because I had been there once already, he said, "Just take a nap on that bed right there, and I'll take you there."
Yeah.
You know? By the way, I just want to comment, since it's kind of coming up organically, there's a day and night cycle in this game, but to say day and night cycle isn't actually accurate. There is day and night in this game.
Yeah.
Time doesn't actually pass in this Zelda game like it does in Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, and Ocarina.
Correct. And I think that is a bummer. I think it would have been cooler for it to pass.
I think it's because so many of our characters in Skyloft have a daytime storyline and a nighttime storyline that probably when Skyward, like in Breath of the Wild, plenty of characters have, let's just say, a daytime existence and a nighttime existence. Honestly, plenty of the characters every couple hours have a different existence, the real complicated ones. But what will happen in Breath of the Wild is if a character is supposed to be, if a character is supposed to be standing in front of a shop in Breath of the Wild during the day, but then at night they're going to go back to their house and go to sleep. Mm-hmm. Somewhere around sunset, there's an animation that takes a couple minutes where they walk back and they go to sleep and then they wake up and they walk to their job or whatever. Mm-hmm. Skyward Sword was going for that, but I guess they didn't at the time. The game maybe the memory couldn't handle it. Maybe the developers, maybe Nintendo wasn't as mature enough in their coding to simply animate these characters going back and forth. Mm. And so it's really abrupt. It's if you go into someone's house and sleep in their bed, already weird. If you sleep in their bed and you wake up, there they are. The characters are standing, 2 or 3 characters are standing in the house they're in. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's really just a black and white situation. It's day or night. And I think it's because each of these characters have such a different existence during the evenings. I didn't notice that time didn't pass at first. You know? So it is just a cycle. I don't know. I can't say that I disliked it. It was a bit abrupt. I kind of liked getting to know all these characters in their at-home life and back.
Yeah.
I kind of liked it.
There were a couple aspects there. So at night, the people would be out of the bazaar and they would be, in their homes, and no one was ever sleeping really. So even if you went there in the middle of the night, everyone's still awake. They don't sleep apparently. But I thought that was cool. The one annoying thing was when you did have to do something that like required sleeping, and it just, for me, because I'm impatient, it just took too long.
To like go find a bed?
Go find a bed, go to sleep. When do you want to sleep until? I want to sleep until the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Like,
there's no other option. It is night. I want to sleep till morning. It is morning or daytime. I want to sleep till night. It's not like in Breath of the Wild or some of these other games where you want to sleep till noon or evening or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hysterical.
So it just took, I'm like,
a little convoluted.
The side quest where you are giving that guy strength potions and you have to like find him at night while he's doing push-ups. But then he's like, okay, thanks. All right, see me later. And you have to like sleep 2 more times. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And it's just for gratitude crystals. But I'm like, this is annoying. So I do wish that time passed naturally for that sense, where I could just like do other stuff while I'm waiting for time to pass and it to become nighttime, and then I can do something, as opposed to like finding the bed and doing the option and waiting for the game to load. And
basically it seems like the nighttime characters, I liked the whole like, oh, they all have their other lives and sometimes different personalities, and they'll speak to, if like the shop owner, when you talk to him at night, he even kind of admits like, well, I have to have that personality because I have to be customer friendly and stuff. And he's kind of like, he's totally burnt out. He's definitely living the retail life, I want to talk about a few more characters in Skyloft, then I think we'll go to break and do the dungeons.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. So speaking of nighttime, well, were there any standouts for you? So you and I have already talked about in other episodes how Skyloft, this game hits hard right in the beginning in that you're basically functionally you're in Hyrule, you're in Castletown, Hyrule Field, and Kokiri Forest all at once.
Right.
And that's what Skyloft is in this game.
Yeah.
In fact, in the Zelda Encyclopedia, when you search towns for Skyward Sword, there's one. And it's Skyloft.
Yeah.
Thoughts about this?
About the fact that it is the only town? I mean...
Okay, I can say this. I liked Skyloft. I even got a little lost in Skyloft. Certainly the first time I played, I liked that.
Yeah.
When you realize, like, oof, this is the only one, then it's a little like, oh, man.
It's almost too big or, like, too twisty-turny because, I would lose track. And thank goodness, like, once you visit someone's house, your map will tell you whose house it is. And then you can put a beacon there if need be. It was like almost too many houses. Like I would have rather had other towns dispersed throughout the game than just like that one big one by itself.
I hear you. And I just realized if they're having these characters teleport from working at the bazaar or wherever to their houses, if that amount of time is passing, they could have just as easily hopped on one of their loft wings and flown to their little other neighboring town or whatever that's in the sky or something. That's true.
Yeah. But overall, I like it. There's the one big waterfall area that's pretty cool looking, but there's also at the same time not much to do with it. Like there's a
like a grappling hook puzzle around there, which is kind of fun.
There's that, but that's like it.
Not grappling hook, but the equivalent of.
Right. It's fine.
Any standout characters for you in the bazaar?
I
grew to like the guy that upgrades your weapons.
Yes, I like him. Like he just seems like a nice, funny fellow.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I just realized something. It only occurred to me this second. I think I liked him because I did engage with him a little bit more at nighttime. Obviously, you have to get to some of those areas in the game. But I found myself going back to that guy's house a little more, and it does help humanize these people a little bit, which is nice. Seeing this other side.
The the storage girl, like the claim girl.
Beatrice.
Yeah. She's pretty funny. I love her like sound effects. Like
I was fully into the side quest about Beatrice this playthrough. I had never experienced it before. In fact, we had a couple comments in our Link's Loves episode, that third episode we ever did, like, oh, why didn't you include the shop girl from Skyward Sword?
Yeah.
It's because I think you and I maybe just didn't experience this side quest yet. I went all the way to the gratitude crystal at the end. have an unhealthy crush on a video game character right now. I'm telling you, Beatrice is the greatest.
Oh my gosh.
It's not good. I found myself getting excited to go back and talk to her. And it's like, oh, it's nighttime again. I come back from another town and I wonder what Beatrice is up to. I mean, it's hysterical.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't believe it.
I did not do that side quest. So I only got to experience, like, I don't think I found the side quest for her. So I only got to experience how her feelings change, where at the end of the game, she's like, oh, hi.
There's like 7 or 8 state phase changes in your relationship with her in this game. And if you go back to her at night, pretty much after every dungeon, it'll advance along. And if you kind of say the right things and her dad starts getting nervous, her dad even says, like, she's got a crush on someone. You got to watch out, Link. And it's like, it's very Spider-Man Homecoming almost a little bit. You know, you're kind of like, you feel it's like, oh, man. But, you know, Link obviously has affection for Zelda in the beginning of the game and throughout the rest of the game. But I fell in hook, line, and sinker for this side quest. I was excited. She started, and then she basically says, "Come to me tonight, and we'll talk about something." And then she says, "Oh, I really love you, but we have to keep it secret for a while." And then I thought, "Oh no, am I gonna have to lie to her and say that I do?" So that, you know, I was like answering all my questions. It's like a dang dating sim, which I've never played, but I was like finding myself really stressing about which way to answer. And then towards the end of the game, I'd go back to the bazaar to switch out some bug medallion for some heart medallion, and Beatrice was there. It was great. Nice to see her.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I missed out, apparently.
Kate, I was like, what is happening to me?
All right, maybe we should move on.
Okay, a few other standouts. So I used the potion people a little bit more this time around. How about you?
I didn't enhance any potions. I didn't do enough collecting for that. Like all those dang tumbleweeds. I'm like, nah, I'm good. So, I mean, I used the Guardian potion definitely more this time than last time. I mean, toward the end of the game, for sure.
I don't think I would have beaten. I just forgot his name. The sword, the bad guy's sword, Girahim. Yeah. I don't think I would have beaten Girahim in that final thing had I not gone in with 3 potions, all of which were like fully upgraded.
Yeah. I just used the Guardian potion by itself, so I didn't enhance it, but that was definitely helpful during the last like gauntlet when you're trying to get down to him at the very, very end, and you have to go through all these crazy.
Oh right.
So
bokoblins. I ran past a lot of those guys.
Oh, I surely tried.
I see. And then they block you a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So Gondo is the guy who upgrades your stuff. I upgraded my shield all the way. That was a ton of fun. I upgraded my bow and arrow and my slingshot. And I remember the first time I played this on Wii, I kind of didn't care about the upgrade stuff at all.
Same.
I think I was just so used to. It was such a new mechanic to a Zelda game that it wasn't in my spectrum of things I cared about, because you didn't have to do that in the previous 3 big 3D ones.
Right.
But maybe post Breath of the Wild. Because basically, a lot of this upgrade stuff and these items is Breath of the Wild light. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was them, the studio that helped make Breath of the Wild helped do some of the design for this game. And I can't remember. Monolith is their name. And they introduced some of the item upgrade stuff to this game that Nintendo, it was like they brought Monolith in to like design these mechanics. And then Monolith helped more with that stuff in Breath of the Wild. I can see the seeds in this game of what happened in Breath of the Wild.
Right. Yeah, and I also did some cheating to determine how to beat the game, because I'm I gotta beat this game. Like, I just looked at like here's what you'll probably need to beat the game, and so it was like, get the goddess shield, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a goddess shield. So I did run around and collect. You know, I caught some birds and for the bird feathers and whatnot, so that I could get the highest shield, which proved extremely useful. So.
I see. I'd like to talk about Girahim and Demise, but maybe we save them for when they show up in their respective dungeons and talk about them at that point.
Sure.
Cool?
Yeah.
All right, so we've discussed Skyloft a little bit. Would you like to, before we go to break, would you like to talk about the mechanics of the bird flying at all? I feel like this would still be a good time to talk about that.
Yeah, we can. I don't know that there's too much to talk about, just because I think it's so basic.
In motion control mode, do you still kind of paper airplane your Joy-Con? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that was fine. It was like less fun Wind Waker sailing. It was less interesting. There was less to do. There were fewer places to go. It took forever, even if you went through the, little portals to speed you up. I was very bored all the time when I was flying, and that's not how you should feel if you're on the back of a bird. Like, you should not feel bored.
Right, I agree.
But I did.
It was like, how can Wind Waker sailing get more boring? And it was Skyward Sword flying.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I think the thing is, even in Wind Waker, you see the horizon. Okay, there's weather effects. The ocean can change. You can have its storm and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And things happen in the Skyward Sword sky, tornadoes and some birds and some people flying. But I think the fact that you can see that island far before you get to it. And at a certain point, you're like, well, I'm just going to go straight to that thing. And if just like, when will I get there?
Right.
It is unfortunate that it's not particularly engaging to travel through the sky.
Agreed. I was also very glad that I beat the target practice. I think the first time through, I was like, thank God, because the first time it did take me a few times because there's also a time limit where you have to hit these targets and spin attack them or whatever. So once that was done, I was like, okay, I'm done here. Like, there's nothing else to do or
I hear you. The last thing I want to say about the bird flying is I was playing in pro controller mode, and the steering controls were up equals up on the joystick and down equals down, which for a first person shooter or something, I kind of like those controls these days.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to essentially invert it and go to Star Fox controls, really.
Right.
And fortunately, that is in the options menu. It's buried but down in there, and I inverted those controls, and then I could actually fly. But before that, I was all over the place. Yeah, it was not pretty. All right, let's go to break, and we'll come back, and we'll discuss all the dungeons up through Demise at the end.
All right.
Cool.
Psst, hey you, come over here.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Okay.
Hey, do you like Zelda?
Yeah, I like Zelda. Who doesn't?
Oh yeah? You like video games?
Yeah, I dabble. I play them, yeah.
Yeah. Do you like listening to people talk about video games?
Of course I like listening to people. Who reads anymore?
Well, buddy, do I got a podcast for you. It's called Fan Fiction, with an X.
Oh.
And you can find it on all your major podcast distributors.
That sounds amazing.
Oh, buddy, you have no idea.
One question, though. Why are you in my room?
Jake, have you ever been looking for a definitive Nintendo ranking and can't seem to find it because it's just everybody's own opinion?
Honestly, all the time, Sam.
Well, I'm looking for someone to give us the answers.
Wait, you mean like a podcast made by two young, handsome men where they create a definitive top 5 list of all things Nintendo?
Should we just do it ourselves?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Let's give it a shot. I'm Sam.
And I'm Jake.
And at Top 5 Nintendo, I'm going to give you my top 5 list.
And I'm going to give you my top 5 list.
And then we're going to duke it out and see what the real top 5 is.
Hi everybody, David here. I just wanted to take a second to tell you about Another Zelda Podcast's brand new merch store. Yes, we've opened up the store to celebrate the beginning of Season 5. In fact, I'd like to tell you about our Another Zelda Podcast logo t-shirt. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's our logo on a classic t-shirt, but it does look pretty neat, especially on the 20 different shirt colors that you can select. All of the staple colors like red and green and black are there, but there's also asphalt, military green, slate, royal heather. I'm not joking, that's one of the color selections. So if you're interested in displaying your Another Zelda Podcast fandom, head on over to our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com, and click on the merch tab in our main menu right up on the top of the screen there. All right, let's get back to the show. All right, we are back.
Woo!
Kate, I have the Zelda Encyclopedia up in front of me.
All right.
I'm on page 157. I'm in the database for dungeons, and I'm in the Skyward Sword subcategory.
Oh, okay.
So I think we're going to just go down the line here. And honestly, I think there's going to be enough to talk about here that's going to take us all the way through Skykeep and into the end of the episode.
For sure.
Cool. For sure.
For sure.
Well, I mean, honestly, I might just kind of there's like a quick little sentence here about the Dungeons in Skyward Sword. I'm going to read it. I've never even read this yet in person. Over in the database, it says the temples and dungeons of this ancient era are adorned with spiritual imagery as the events take place in a time when tales of the goddess and the creation of the world feel more like recent history. In some places, Link can travel between past and present using time shift stones, learning more about his world as it changes around him. I just realized those time shift stones, we can talk more about it when we get to them, push you even further into the past.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way.
Yeah.
So, we can talk a little bit about, there's 3 main areas in this game, 3 main sections, the forest, the desert, and the mountain, the volcano, I guess.
Right.
If we are inclined to speak to some of the things we have to do in those areas to get to the dungeons, I'm cool with that. But I'm basically going to use the dungeons as our checkpoints here.
Yeah.
Cool. Because there's, when the first time you're in the Farron Woods there, it does feel like there's a lot to do before you get to the first forest dungeon.
Yes.
You're looking for stuff, you're running around, you're getting used to things. And that's fine. So if anything ever comes out, if we ever get to a point where you're like, oh, I want to talk about the thing you have to do to get there, let's talk about it. But for now, let's talk about Skyview Temple.
All right. I kind of forgot about this one when I played it again.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I'm doing this right now? Like, I didn't know that this temple was, like, so soon, I guess. I guess, exactly what you just said, to get to the Skyview Temple, just a quick note, not a fan of, like, finding the Kikwis.
Yeah, I get it. I get why games do this. They want you to, they want to force you to go around the map and learn the map.
Right.
I'm also not a fan of these kinds of ways of doing that.
Yeah. I mean, they're cute enough, but I was kind of more annoyed than anything. Like, just send me to the temple. It's fine. I got it. I got it.
You shield block for the Deku shrubs in this game. That's a new thing.
Yep.
You have to shield block. Like, you actually have to, like, push forward with your shield.
Move it, yeah.
Otherwise, that took a while. I think you have to find one of the Kikwis that way is why I bring it up.
Yeah, because then if you don't do it, the thing just crumbles, right? And it damages your shield.
Yeah, the nut
as well.
that it shoots out or whatever damages your shield and crumbles.
Yep.
By the way, that third powered up shield slowly regenerates itself. I think you got to that.
Yeah,
your face is telling me you did.
Also, why it was very helpful.
So we get into Skyview. There's some water elements. We're definitely dealing with spiders. We're definitely dealing with the first time you have to do like a sword thing that you're not fully sure. So the thing that's interesting about motion controls in general is that once you know what to do, they can be intuitive, hence throwing a bomb versus rolling a bomb. But learning, so here's the thing. So like with button controls on a controller for any video game ever, let's think of what's kind of a standard Pro controller these days, which would be an Xbox, PlayStation, or Switch Pro controller. You've kind of got the 4 face buttons and you've got some shoulder buttons. When you get into a video game, in the early parts of a game, you're probably going to push each one of those buttons to try to see what they do. I mean, sometimes a tutorial will teach you a few things, but you're going to kind of say, oh, that's what A does right now. Okay, oh, that's what B does. Oh, that's what X does. You're going to kind of figure it out. A problem with motion controls is that the spectrum of options is almost limitless to execute a move.
Right.
You can wiggle, you can waggle, you can push, you can go slow, you can go fast, you can rotate. And so it does take a lot to communicate what these gestures are.
Yeah.
Sometimes the iOS devices have the same problem, or even like any of the smartphones, even the Android smartphones. It's like pull from the left corner down to get your whatever. And if you weren't told that, it's not intuitive that that's what you could or should do, because there isn't like a button or an icon to indicate that. iOS, as a side note, has gotten a little better about that recently. They're starting to put little lines on the sides of the screen to inform that you can pull something in. But I digress. The first moment that can really stump some people is the spiraling of the sword to make the eye spin around to get into Skyview Temple here.
Yeah, and I mean, I already knew about that this time around, so I knew exactly what to do right away. But yes, the first time that I played the game, that was definitely a like, what do I have to do?
Yeah, and so you're trying to use what you know from previous Zelda games. You're trying to, you don't have arrows yet, but okay, maybe it's the slingshot. Maybe you're trying to stab it.
Right. I 100% would have used a slingshot at first, or like try to hit the eyes at first. I think another aspect of that is the sculptulas or however you want to pronounce that, the spiders. Because you're like, there were so many times that I'm like trying to kill this thing and it's just swinging around and I can't get it when it swings toward me and I get knocked on my butt and I I also can't hit it like when it's down on the ground.
Right. What strategy did you end up using? It's not intuitive, but it's cool when you learn it.
Oh, I mean, I'm just flinging my arms all around. I don't even know.
Oh,
I think
really?
I just happened upon the right thing to do, and then you can do like the final strike or something.
So what it is, and maybe I learned this because I wasn't just flinging because I was doing the R stick thing, is if you essentially swing up. So on the R stick, it's like you hold down and push up. You flip the spider, and then you can do that final strike.
I definitely was not doing that. I was just like going. I'm swinging my arms madly. You can't see it.
Once in a while, I'd be on that R stick, just going every which way, trying to figure something out.
Yep.
There was a little bit of that. I'm trying to go back on my notes here.
You get
So
the beetle.
just about every we get the beetle. Yeah, we can talk about that. But just about every creature in Skyward Sword, because of the motion controls and the new way of doing this, all the sword mechanics, just about every creature, and we're gonna see a theme here, you deal with in a slightly different way than what you're used to in previous Zelda games.
Right.
The Deku shield block thing, which is like a version of it. Flipping the spider. Like, we know the spiders are weak on the inside from all these other Zelda games, but flipping them was a new thing.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I had a note in my phone notes that I really liked the idea of using sword play more so, like more specifically and more, specific to these enemies, like more strategically. I liked that idea. I think it was executed poorly, but I do like the concept, and I agree with the concept, and I think that was a really cool thing that they were like trying to do. I just don't think it was like super effective.
Yeah, I agree. I felt the sword play translated to the R stick really well.
Right.
Personally, and I know I've said that a few times, but the extra things you needed to do with the sword play, I enjoyed it too. And I think, when you say like executed poorly, some of that execution might have gotten tightened up with that R stick a little bit. I got to be honest.
I think so. Except for I didn't use it.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But whatever. The Stalfos is the like mini boss where you get the beetle, and I always love a good Stalfos. I think those were my maybe my favorite. They're up there in terms of how to do the sword play well, because you had to like swing your sword in the space that they did not have their swords.
Yes.
I don't know why I like those enemies so much. I think they're challenging but not impossible. I think they make more sense, like the Deku Babas that like hang, and then you have to like stab into them, but then they also switch like which sword
like
technique
if you're
have to
doing a
use.
horizontal or a vertical slash.
Right, but then whenever I would try it, like I would just end up hitting them and it would bounce off of them like 80% of the time. Like that was just really frustrating. But whereas the Stalfos, I felt like that made sense, and it felt like more like a smarter enemy. Like, I don't know. I always like those. Those are fun to battle.
Yeah, I was okay with it too. I was. One of the areas where Skyward Sword has a strength for sure is that sometimes with a Zelda game, once you Z target, when a Zelda game's at its worst, once you Z target, you're really just hitting the A button.
Right.
You know what I mean? And this definitely plays with all of that, this whole game.
Mm-hmm.
So we get our Stalfos, you get the bug. The bug stood out a little bit. I think you learn you can chop these hanging
the Dekus,
plants we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's Girahim at the end of this. But is there anything else about the dungeon? There's some good. I guess you start learning what to do with the bug. They do some nice stuff where you learn that the bug can fly around to see points of view that you can't see. So there's a lot of items in Legend of Zelda games are line of sight. It's a slingshot. It's a hook. If you can see it, you can shoot to it.
Yeah.
The bug does allow for you to curve and look around and explore a little bit.
Yeah.
And they definitely like hit a gem underneath a platform in this dungeon. They put one over to the side, those pink gems and stuff. They start teaching you a little bit about how water is going to go up and down. They teach you that you can get stuck on spiderwebs even though it's annoying. They teach you it can happen.
Right. I like the beetle. It's cool. You can cut rope with it, which may take you a minute to like figure out like, oh, I can cut this rope with it, of course.
Yeah.
And you can carry bombs with it eventually. Not right away.
I think you need an upgrade. I don't think you upgrade it. I think someone gives you an upgrade.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, the character somewhere.
Yep. Which that's another cool aspect that I feel like was really helpful later on when you were like in the desert area and you needed to get rid of those birds and the sand crabs or whatever those things are.
Oh
like
yeah,
snails.
Ultimately, the aesthetic of this dungeon, I liked it. The music was fine.
Mhm.
You know, it was like a little spooky, but not too crazy.
Yeah.
This really is the first dungeon, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is no Deku Tree warm-up dungeon in this game, is there?
Right. You climb the tree and like you talk to Kikui in the tree, but that's about it. Yeah. And then there's Gear Him, which is annoying when he catches your sword.
So I still don't know the mechanics of the first phase of this fight. Every time I play this game, I just kind of get through it, but I still don't know exactly what I'm doing.
So
Because
what?
he's kind of blocked. Do you have notes on it?
Yeah. So what I would do?
I actually thought the final Girahim fight, even though it was more difficult, was better telegraphed. Like I kind of knew what I needed to do.
I agree. Okay, maybe I don't have notes. I think my note was basically the second battle was easier than the first one.
Yeah.
In terms of I just got it better. But what I would do, because he's supposed to like predict your movements based on where your sword is, I would always have it to like my lower left, and I'd be holding it there, and then I would swing around underneath and like come in from the upper right.
Oh, interesting.
And that would not work all the time, just because again, some of the motion controls were just not doing what I was trying to do. It was not picking up on my movements the way that I was wanting it to.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like my...
Because he does say at some point, if you're not getting it, he's kind of like, you're telegraphing your moves.
Right.
I know where you're going.
Right.
And maybe the idea is, if you're holding on the R stick, it's like if I'm holding to the right to swing to the left, he's seeing that.
Yep. And then
I-
he'll be holding his hand down.
Yeah. I can't remember fully. It has been a few months now since this part, but I think I ended up trying to like flick the right stick instead of like having it go from 0 to side quickly instead of holding it to one side to slash.
Right.
That is one part that's weird about the R stick, is that it defaults to middle, whereas with your hand, I guess you can kind of start on one of the sides. If you want to slash to the left, you have to bring the R stick to the right first, then slash to the left, or you can flick it. But anyways.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was one aspect where the swordplay was not well done. I did not like it when he could catch your sword. When he had his sword, it was better.
The second phase I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And a little scary and all of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That guy is so weird. He is like flamboyant, and the tongue waggling was...
Yeah, I don't have any issue with the
bizarre.
flamboyant stuff, but I think they were going for like, I don't know what they were going for, but choices are made like the tongue where you're kind of like, where's this coming from?
Yeah.
I don't know if it lines up. I actually didn't mind. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to show that he's kind of unharnessed or unhinged.
Yeah.
There are times where he'd be talking and all of a sudden it's like I think what they were going for, I just said that, but I think that it's like this idea that this guy's on the inside actually exploding. He's so mad and can't contain it and so out of control. But he's holding it in, and he's holding it in so much that he can go all the way to the other end of the spectrum to be like almost performy in the way that he's moving and talking and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening there.
And his theme is so like circusy. Like he reminded me of like a jester as well, but like a sinister one. I guess that's what I meant by the like flamboyancy. He was kind of like a circus performer in an odd way. But I don't know. He's a fine boss. Like Demise in like Ganon-esque form, way at the end, was much more effective as a scary boss than Girahim was.
Yeah, I agree. He was pretty much like the classic big bulky dude.
Yeah.
But he scared the heck out of me. When I was playing him, I was like, no, I don't want this.
Yeah, I know.
It was true. It happened. But anyway, let's keep on going here.
Yeah.
So you get from Skyview Temple, you get your little item, you go back to Skyloft, and you find out your next location, which brings us to the Elden Volcano, which eventually you get into the Earth Temple.
Yeah. I do like, just as like a side note, not specific to the Earth Temple, but in general, like the boss keys where you have to like rotate it and find how it can fit into the lock.
Did you say you do like that?
I do.
Fascinating. I figured that'd be something you didn't like.
No, I like it that it's a little puzzle within a puzzle. I think
right.
it's neat that you can manipulate it and like kind of figure it out. It was never
I'm into it.
frustrating to me. Like I was like, oh, this is cool. Oh, maybe this way. Oh, maybe this way. And it was just kind of a cool little additional puzzle.
I love it.
I liked it.
I love it. Cool. We have the big So this dungeon is one of those dungeons where it kind of presents a lot to you when you first get in, and you have to figure out where to go because you have so many options. Once you release the big bowling ball that you can walk around on.
Oh yeah.
It's not exactly a hub in that, like some classic Zelda dungeons, there's a hub and you've got your 4 doors and you pick which one to go through, or there's only one you can go through. This one's a little more open-ended as far as trying to figure out. There's a lot of like small little puzzles to slowly collect things as you go in the beginning.
Yes, and then this is where you get your digging mitts as well, which are fine.
Hey, remember those from Minish Cap?
Yes. Yes. They're fine. At least it doesn't take too long. Like even if you dig like 5 times, it just takes a few seconds. So that's usually my gripe is like efficiency. Like, is this efficient? Okay, yes, this is fine.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's fine.
It's fine.
Though it gets a little frustrating later in the game when some of them will give you the air shoots and some won't. And then you're like, do I really have to dig every single one of these little spots just to get this? Because most of the time, if I didn't need rupees or hearts, I pretty much skipped the digging. Like I would run past these things, you know?
Yeah. I did usually do them because I want more money. I can buy more stuff, but I don't know. The Earth Temple was fine. I did like the jogging along the boulder. That was pretty fun. I remember getting stuck at one point because you have to like bomb a crack in the wall.
Bomb in the crack in the wall. You have to throw the bomb onto the slanted thing so that it rolls down just in time to break the thing so that because there's boulders coming down, right? I almost got stuck there too.
That's a different crack in the wall.
Oh, what's the other one?
There are a couple different places. I'm talking about when you're like walking on the boulder.
Yeah.
And to like get around to the other side of the bridge where you have to push the button in.
Oh, there's a long cut thing, isn't there?
You have to like bomb another crack in the wall. And I remember like the first time I played, I was just walking around on my boulder and walking around on my boulder. And I'm like, where do I go? I'm really bad at noticing details like cracks in the wall. So I had to eventually like.
Based on our previous conversations, you love cracks in the wall. I thought you like. You got a good eye for those things.
Yeah, not sometimes.
These
clearly.
blended in a little too much, I guess, huh?
Yeah. And then the boss, Scaldera, was such a goofy looking thing.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is a cool like concept, and it was a cool boss battle.
I liked the battle.
But the way that it looked is just so goofy.
There are 2 or 3 bosses in this game that honestly I joked off camera about Monsters Incorporated. There's 2 or 3 bosses in this game that like feel like they're straight out of Monsters Incorporated.
Yes.
And this flaming ball of spider is one of them.
Yeah, I put cool concept but stupid design.
I get it why it needed to be a ball.
Right.
So it can do the whole rolling thing. We're kind of homaging the Dodongo stuff from Ocarina by throwing bombs into the mouth and stuff. I loved all of that. I love that this did kind of feel like an epic battle. It was one of those where the camera's kind of fixed, kind of going up and down with you. You know, in our Twilight Princess episode, we talked about how some of the boss battles were super epic, but there wasn't a lot of gameplay connected to the epic moments. This boss battle for me combined both of those quite well.
Yeah. I liked it. It was also an easier one, which is probably why I liked it, because it wasn't that difficult to do, especially when you do it, you know, like later on as part of the way to get the shield, the Hylian shield.
Right.
That whenever that one came up, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I got this one. Not a problem.
Scaldera, right?
Yes.
That's what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. I'm just checking the encyclopedia notes here as well.
Yes.
I was fine with it. The lava stuff, it was fine. Then we just missed Zelda again. We actually didn't mention that in the Skyview Temple. For the first 3 dungeons, Fi says, we got to go here to find Zelda. Douse, which is a real thing.
Oh,
It took me forever to realize that dousing is like when people go dousing for water. Actually, I didn't even notice until for school, I had to watch the movie Minari, and they were dealing with dousers in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, wait a second. We're doing that in Skyward Sword right now. I felt a little silly. I didn't realize that that's what was going on. That you're pointing around with a stick. You're pointing at something to sense where something might be.
Right.
That's where that came from for Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
So for the first 3 dungeons, Zelda's definitely at the end of this dungeon. She's here. Look, we found some data. Here's the shackles that she was in. And you just keep missing her for the first 3 dungeons. And then you get there and then Fi's like, sorry, she's actually not here now. They took her to another thing. It's very Princesses in Another Castle for these first 3 dungeons.
Yes. very much so.
But we go back to Skyloft with our extra slab that completes part of the map, and it opens up our third and final portal down to the land.
Mm-hmm.
We go down to the desert.
To the mining facility, right?
Yes, quite a bit of things to do before you get into the Lanayru mining facility.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few things. I think for a lot of people, this is where the game slows down a little bit because you are in an area where you have to just kind of figure out what you're doing in this space a little bit more. This is the first time where this is the map thing that I mentioned in our world building episode where you have to mark map points down, at a certain point. There's a lot to do in the desert here.
Yes.
Every time I get to the desert, I've gone to the desert maybe 3 times, including this playthrough. I always feel a little sense of despair when I first get in there. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, there's so much in front of me. I don't know. Maybe you're supposed to feel that way when you enter a desert.
Yeah. I remember feeling that way as well. I remember saving the game before I go off to find the 3 parts of the key, and I'm just like, this is gonna take forever, so I'm gonna save and quit for now. I don't wanna, because there are plenty of places where you can save, which is nice, even though you can't do it whenever you want, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
There are at least enough, where it's not a huge pain in the butt to save your game. But they're just, as much as I love The Legend of Zelda for making things detailed, and it does take a lot of time. I love a game where you're going to spend a lot of hours on it. There's some tedium in this part of this game specifically, for sure, where I felt the same thing that you did, where I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Go find the 3 things because element happens a few times in this game, and that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. You think you're there to find, you're already trying to find 3 things, right? You're there you're going to find the 3 parts of that tablet.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you try to find the 3rd piece of the tablet, now you have to find the 3 parts of the key to find the 3rd tablet. And I'm just like, okay, this is too much.
No, I agree. Some of the time when Twilight Princess is at its best is they might have 3 tasks for you to do between a dungeon, but those tasks will be, for the most part, story motivated. Maybe you are bringing something to a person, but then that person's telling you, well, now you're going to protect this thing, and now you got to go meet this person. And essentially that so I think that the key word here is padding. When a game isn't long enough, take the thing you need to get and break it into 3 and make people get 3 things, because it'll take 3 times as long, and the game will take 3 times as long to play.
Mm-hmm.
When gamers sense that about a game, and this was happening a lot in the early 2000s, when gamers sense that, they get a little taken out. And I think that Wind Waker and Skyward Sword, and even a little bit of Twilight Princess at times, this is in this age of gaming that was happening. Maybe it still does, but at least not the games I'm playing. And that's it's too bad. It's because basically if you want me to spend 20 minutes finding these 3 pieces for this key, I'll happily spend that 20 minutes even if it's just talk to this person, because there's a story part of it, or there's something, instead of, you know what I mean? Because all it takes to break apart a key is you find 3 spots on the map and you put them there. Maybe, okay, this one's a little harder to get to because you got to go up a rope or something, but it's a very easy, quick fix to make things take a little longer. And whenever I can feel that that's happening, I kind of get a little upset about that.
I agree. I do like the time shift stones and turning things very colorful, and the music changes, and the little, I don't really care about the little robots. Sorry.
I don't either. They're kind of annoying.
They're really rude, which is, you're probably not meant to really like them, because they're like, oh, wait, you're a human, you're stupid. And I'm like, okay, well.
I love the time shift stones. I think this is where Skyward Sword is at its best.
Mm-hmm.
Especially there's times where you're moving them with you.
Yeah.
There's times you're not. There's times they're big, they're small. Sometimes they're just an on and off switch. Sometimes they're a legit mechanic. The introduction of the time stones in the desert here is super cool, which reminds me, I even just aesthetically visually love a little bit later on. Maybe it's the second dungeon. That's a dungeon coming up. I don't want to talk about it yet. I was going to talk about the desert ocean thing. When you're on the small boat, but I think that's what the second time you go back. That's the sand ship. Okay, so so we're going towards the Nehru mining facility. Tons of time stone puzzles inside this dungeon. Just some good old classic. Oh, this is the first time we really have to deal with the what are they called? BMOS.
Yes, and those are fine. I was able to
they're super easy with the R stick.
Yeah.
It's swipe left, swipe right, clicking on the R.
Yep, I remember that specifically. I was happy to have the R stick for those in particular because it was so hard to do that forward strike,
Mhm.
especially with this one where it's a tiny little eyeball. So yes, I definitely used that. And then this one has the Scorpion boss, correct? Except you just get a heart container.
You might, because you use the gust blower thing, gust bellows to to defeat the mini boss. So normally you get your item from the mini boss in the middle, but I think they give you this blower a little bit earlier because so many of the mechanics in the dungeon deal with it.
Right.
So they give you a couple rooms to get used to it, and then you go against that scorpion, which I liked. I don't know, I was fine with the scorpion battle. I thought it was kind of fun.
I like that one. I don't like that you have to fight it twice. It's
Wait, what? Really? It comes
bizarre.
back? I forgot that.
Yeah, you have to fight it a second time for no reason at all. Like,
You're right, it shows
literally
up-
no reason.
It shows up when you're trying to save the little robots or something, doesn't it? I might be thinking of the sand ship, but
Yeah,
I
this
think
is-
it does show up twice.
This is, yeah, it's like after the sand ship and you have to fight it again. And I wrote, why did I need to fight this again? And how? And are there two of them? Like, I thought I killed you.
Yeah.
Like, is there more than one?
More than one big scorpion. We're definitely doing the directional sword hits with the clamper, the
Yes.
claws of the scorpion. Of
Yep.
course, it has eyeballs in its claws,
Of course. Why
but
not?
it was fine. This is the only part of the game that I know of where the sand slowly refills.
Yeah.
I think everywhere else, once you blow it away, it stays away. And obviously, they do that so that because if you truly blew all the sand away, the mechanic of this scorpion wouldn't work because
Right.
there are times where he's jumping back down into the sand.
Yeah.
And they're doing some fun animations where the sand's rippling, kind of like Tremors, the movie
Mhm.
Tremors and stuff like that. Yeah, that little boss was fine. What's our final boss in this one? I can't remember. Let me look at the Girahim appears and awakens. Oh, no. After defeating the ancient scorpion, Maldarik. Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, wait, is this the big skeleton that comes out at the end of the middle? There's a scorpion as well.
I thought Moldarok was the boss.
I think Moldarok is. I've been talking about the tiny little Moldarok.
That's a scorpion,
What?
isn't it? Is it not?
Isn't there a big I thought there was a big skeleton creature that looked almost like I'm going to Moldarok right now on a Zelda wiki real quick. Yeah, this is the scorpion I'm
creature.
thinking of. That was really the final battle?
I thought so.
I mean, that's what it says in the encyclopedia.
I'm going like way back in my brain for that because it's early in the game. But yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. No, I think it is. Maybe it's the ancient cistern or I think I'm thinking of the fire sanctuary. Isn't there like a big skeleton-looking alien thing that comes out and has two hands and stuff? It's kind of like the plant boss in Twilight Princess. There's one of them in here. We'll get to it.
Oh man.
There's one of them. I totally mistook Moldarok as the mid-boss.
Yeah, no, there is none in this one. That's
I
why it's
see.
weird. Yeah, there is no.
I see.
no boss.
You just get the sand blast. Okay, that's all making a lot more sense to me now.
Yeah.
Ooh, that got trippy.
Well,
We like just played this game.
we'll get I know, but so long. I mean, there's so much of the game. Plus, I have a terrible memory.
So we get out of the mining facility, and now this is where we have a nice little lore story element. As you get out of the temple, you appear by the what was it? Was it like the actual mirror of time or something like that? You finally see Zelda
Mhm.
and Impa. Zelda goes through a thing. Impa says you're too late, but you at least see Zelda this time, not just like she was here.
Yes. Yep, and then you miss her, and Girahim comes in. What's funny about Girahim, like, interrupting you all the time is that he's always like, I could kill you, but I won't. Goodbye. Like,
You're getting so annoying.
yeah,
See you later.
yeah, but I don't have time for you. I mean,
Mhm.
if
Boy,
you're
are we lucky, Gary.
you're so powerful, I feel like you could have just tried to kill me. But
Ganondorf gets that way a little bit in Ocarina of Time once in a while.
right,
Actually, I was just replaying Ocarina of Time, and in the very beginning, he's kind of like, "What, boy? You think?" Well, I guess he shoots a purple blast, but anyway.
it's kind of a movie trope too when you see the final boss and then they do like a monologue and they don't actually like attempt to kill the hero in any kind of way. They're just there to be full of ego, and
Yeah, it's true.
that's all.
That's true. Well, okay. So then, what happens like I know the ancient cistern is next. We go back to the Faerie Woods, but we have to get. Oh, is it powering up the sword 3 times, or are you getting the 3 pieces of the Triforce? Perhaps. No, 3 pieces of the Triforce happen in Skykeep at the end. We're trying to
Right.
collect 3 things to make the sword the actual Master Sword. We get the Master Sword.
Right.
I think after that 3rd temple.
Yeah, and then there's an imprisoned battle, isn't there?
Oh my gosh, we're totally forgetting about the imprisoned stuff.
Yeah, imprisoned, my favorite dinosaur
I think
pineapple.
I've selectively forgotten about those battles.
I hate it so much.
I think there's an imprisoned in the very. No, maybe the first imprisoned battle is before the ancient cistern, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Okay,
it's
okay.
after these 3, and then
I
you
see.
go down to the Temple of Time,
Mhm.
and you have that whole thing, and then it's like, oh, go defeat the dinosaur pineapple.
The dinosaur pineapple, and it's going up the spiral, which is kind of cool to learn why that spiral exists later in the game.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat. But when you're first playing it, it's like, what? This is really just this is a timed thing. I don't know about this demise creature. It's so easy to hate on these fights, but let's try to look at it critically. I don't know. You're hitting toes and ankles.
Big jelly bean toes. I mean, it's just. I know it's meant to look scary. It doesn't. It looks
doesn't.
like someone in a costume at a birthday party. Like, it
I
looks
agree with you.
ridiculous. It looks ridiculous. The head is, I think, scary with all the teeth.
It's scary in that opening cutscene.
Yes. And the noise is scary, but then it just sounds like a big asthmatic dinosaur.
And then later it gets those silly Muppet hands.
Yes. I hate
that was a
it.
misstep, I think.
I think it's cool that they try to make it more difficult as time goes on, but they made it too difficult. And like the whole thing where if he reaches the top, like you're donezo, and once you're like, we can maybe combine all the imprisoned battles to save some time. But eventually when you're like tossing the bombs down at him via Groose's cannon or
Yeah,
What's it
cannon
called?
is fine. His little cannon cart.
yeah, his cannon cart. It's so easy to miss him.
Really? I never missed one.
Oh, okay, well, good for you.
Oh,
So,
but I was playing with my analog sticks, not my motion controls.
yeah,
That
so
could have done something.
there was that. But when you miss it, you're just like done. It's done now.
Really?
Like one miss, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna quit my game and start over
see.
from the beginning of the battle because I'm not gonna waste my time stressing out about the rest of this.
I see.
Him stomping on you and the force fields or whatever.
The
going
sound
out.
force fields were the hardest for me. That's what
Yes.
really I had the hardest time with because you have just enough time to try to get into one of those toes from the force field, and it's not like you can jump over them or anything.
No.
You really just kind of have to try to time it. So really, what happens is you just start to spam run at his toes, and then just eat some hearts and stuff, and you know what I mean. It's not the strategy breaks down a little bit, I think.
Yes, yeah. And then whenever this was part of the trying to get the Hylian shield, I just whenever it popped up with that, so much so that I would pick that one as like the first one to do, just so I could at least make sure it didn't come up later when I was low on hearts, because this was the one I lost the most hearts on.
Interesting. I think there's a way, and I think I saw this on the internet, and then I tried it. If you get a layer up above him, you can jump and you come down like on the imprisoned's head. You can immediately attack the nail thing.
Yeah, I would usually go under, like hop down and then use a wind, like a
to get up a bit.
yeah to go up.
One thing that's kind of fun is the wind that's in the very middle shoots you all the way up to the top of that spiral, so that you can really have some options coming down. I did not know that until I saw it on the internet by accident. Like I didn't like research it while I was playing. People were just talking about Skyward Sword or whatever on the internet, and I was like, "Ooh, I'll try that."
Yeah,
But ultimately, I think I mostly just went for the jelly bean toes.
I hate it.
It's unfortunate. Yeah, I wish there was a way that we could kind of spitball how it might work better, but it's okay. I don't like to just dislike stuff, but this one was a bit of a misstep, I think.
And then you also have to fight after the second time you fight it when it gets a little more difficult. You have to do it again very soon after that.
Yeah, I think it's like you go into the temple and kind of come right back out.
And have to do it again.
It's a quick one, yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I haven't learned anything new. I haven't gotten a new weapon. I haven't, like, there's literally no reason to do this again.
3 main fights with the imprisoned, right? I mean, you're there 4 times, but the 4th time's kind of demise. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think it's 3 main fights. I think it's
3 or 4.
I think it's the toe. Maybe it is 4. It's the toes, and then it's like he has the hands, so he can try to climb up. And then Groose has made the cannon, or he's working on the cannon, or something like that.
And then he can fly.
And then the 3rd one's the flying one. I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, the flying. I didn't deal with the flying too much. I think you can stop it from flying by hitting it with the bombs, right?
You have to you have to go and land on it for the very last one.
Ooh.
When he's flying. Then you go up to the top, and then Groose
He shoots
sends
you over. That's right. That's what it was.
And
yeah.
and if you miss that,
You're
it's
out.
done.
I see.
And so it was just if you miss one tiny thing, you're donezo, and it's such a long the animation takes forever when you come across it. You just have to wait for the cutscene every time. You can skip a little bit of it, I think, but it still has to go through.
Let me ask you this. If you don't have an answer, it's fine. I'm making this up right now. If there's anything that we don't have to redesign how this boss fight should work, but if there's anything that you could change about it, what would it be? Could it be as simple as just make the thing look scarier?
No, that wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
I think it would be being a little more forgiving of it. Maybe if it walked up the hill a little slower, or if there was more of the hill, or if it wasn't just so that you make one mistake and you have to spend another half an hour trying to beat it.
Or maybe there's an active way you can make it be slower. If you do shoot it with an arrow or something, if a range thing. If you're far away, you can slow it down, give you some capacity, some agency in its speed. Maybe would be interesting.
Which the bombs do to a certain amount.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't. It still wasn't enough, because if you miss one little thing, it'll slide on its belly all the way up the or halfway.
Oh, that's right.
Up
I
the
forgot
hill.
about that. It will. It'll just go for it like a slug.
Yep.
Yeah, that did happen a few times. Okay, fair enough. So Imprisoned, there it is.
Yep.
Super weird that turns into super scary demise.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we do an Imprisoned fight, and then we go into the Temple of Time and learn that the Faron Woods have been flooded.
Mm-hmm.
I think in my previous plays, I got past the Faron. I've played the Ancient Cistern, and I've played the Sand Ship. I think when I first played it on the Wii, I stopped somewhere around Fire Sanctuary. Skykeep felt very new to me. I think I don't know. I had vague memories of it.
Yeah,
but
same.
I did not have many memories of the flooded Faron Woods.
The Tad tones.
So Tad tones is classic padding. That is padding.
Yeah.
That is we're just going to put 20 things out there and you're going to have to find them. You know what I mean? It's not story motivated. It's just there. It's collect the coins because you have to. And where Skyward Sword suffers the most when you're doing all of these padding things.
I put this one was fine. I much preferred the Elden stealth mission.
Yeah.
That one made more sense to me. I have to get my stuff back.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. They grab me, they take all my stuff, I have to get my stuff back. That makes more sense than find these colorful music notes. Why? What do I care about this?
Right.
So the Elden stealth one was definitely my preferred time waster.
Even if I had to go find 2 or 3 people to get some clues on how to pull a plug to make that water go down, I would have preferred that so much more than just collect all these wacky notes.
Mm-hmm.
The notes are fine, but it was, that was... I hate to say it, but I think there is a lot of padding in Skyward Sword. It makes you wonder. Now, also, I read something that Skyward Sword actually was in development the longest out of any Zelda game.
Mm-hmm.
The sequel to Breath of the Wild might be winning right now.
Yeah.
But Skyward Sword was. So it's not like it was rushed to release the way Wind Waker was, but...
Felt like it.
It kind of feels like it.
It felt like it.
Yeah.
However, Ancient Cistern, since we're going into that
we're
one
going there.
next,
Also, we start meeting our dragons again.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we got our water dragon lady, who we kind of met with the Zora stuff earlier.
Yes, and then there's plenty of go fetch this to fetch that for the water dragon, which is very frustrating. I do also have a note that yes, I know that Zelda games have the go back to this place over and over again aspect of it, but I think this game did it in the worst way. There are fewer locations to go back to, and they don't feel rewarding when you go back to them.
So I agree. I think, the first time you get to your first 3 locations, it's exciting. Then you go back a second time and you have some new items and you kind of can go to some new areas. At least Faron Woods is flooded, so it's completely reinterpreted.
Yeah.
Now the tree doesn't feel tall. It actually feels, like something, going down to the bottom of the tree is now an inconvenience because of your air and stuff like that. That was clever.
Yeah.
I actually liked the stealthy part of of getting into the fire sanctuary we haven't talked about yet.
Mhm.
I thought that was kind of well done.
Mhm.
The sand ship one, even that one wasn't too bad. You're going into a whole new area with some new mechanics.
Yeah.
Not bad. But by the time we got to the third one, the third times we had to go, basically when you had to go get these items for the dragons,
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Like, you can only go back to the same place so many times. And yeah, but look, this time maybe there's like a few things that are a little different. Or this time you're back with the hook shot so you can actually get to this thing to find the dragon. It's thing. I get it. Game makers have to model these areas, and if they can, and to some degree, like the second time you go back to each of these locations, arguably new things are modeled.
Mm-hmm.
Like the desert is bigger. The you know what I mean? Would that have been better? I ask you this right now. Would that have been better if story-wise that was literally just a different place that has slightly different aesthetic? It would have taken the same amount of time for the game designers to model it.
Yeah. And like you said, I think the desert did that more effectively because then
Yeah.
you're sailing and then there's a mine cart thing, which, I mean, at first you're like, cool. And then literally nothing happens as a result of that. So whatever. But so, yeah, I think it would have been better to have a similar aesthetic, but slightly different area.
Yeah, just for the
Do something.
psychology of it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a bit of return to place fatigue in this game. I think we've established.
Agreed.
With that said, though, it does bring us into the Ancient Cistern, which is
Yeah.
a perfectly pleasant temple.
I like this one. This is probably my favorite one. I like the aesthetic of it, the look of it. I
Mhm.
like the creepy, like underneath area when you go down to like all the purple, scary, swampy land. I don't even know how you would describe that. It's like you're going to hell, kind of. I mean,
I think that's supposed to be the vibe. Yeah.
yeah. So there's like bones all over the ground,
The land of the
and
dead.
zombies and everything like that. So I like the cool, different versions of it where you have this light and airy, and there's water and it's nice, and then you go to the land of the damned.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
a cool other part of it.
Some good bug puzzles down there, flying into eyes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The cistern itself, processing, having it go up and down was fun. That was
Mhm.
interesting. Is there a mid boss? Oh yeah, it's down in the land of the dead, right? I'm trying to remember the mid boss.
Stallmaster, yes. Stallmaster has the whip. Or guards the whip.
Yes.
So this one was another like Stalfos-ish, that's the
Yeah.
skeleton. Oh, is that who you were thinking of?
Could have been, yeah.
Because this is the skeleton with like the 4 different arms and the 4 different weapons.
Yeah, this was a good fight.
Yeah. I like this one too. Again, probably because it's like Stalfos-ish. And it's also, I mean, the like pirate captain skeleton guy is kind of like this as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess that's just the kind of Zelda boss I enjoy.
Precision sword
it
stuff.
is a Stalfos. Okay, so Stallmaster is a Stalfos. That makes sense. They're of the same species. So yeah, and then you get the whip. I think the whip is a cool thing. A cool way of activating switches and flipping
Right.
lily pads, and I liked it. It was kind of a different thing.
Because you think the whip, because you don't have the hook shot yet, I think, in this part of the game. I don't think you get that till later, till the sand ship stuff.
Yeah.
But you get your whip, and it does feel a little bit like that claw shot from Wind Waker, where it's not exactly the hook shot that goes, but it can grab stuff.
Yeah.
But the whip, you do learn it can be used for a couple different things. One thing that caught me by surprise, but I was fine with it when I realized it, is that you don't have to just pull things at you, towards you. You can try to kind of inertia whip things left and right, and there are times where you have to flip switches left and right. You
Mhm.
connect your whip to them, and then you got to flick left or right
Yeah.
to yank them one way or the other. That's fine. That
I
was
think
cool.
that makes sense for motion controls because it's not
Mhm.
overly complicated. It makes sense. Like the physics make sense. So
Yeah. In
Okay.
fact, like a left and right swipe make more sense than like a pull back, which is kind of an up.
right, yes.
Yeah.
And then my guy,
We go to Kloctos.
Galactus.
I had an awesome battle with Kloctos. I died the first time. I had a hard time with Kloctos this time
Mhm.
around. And I think a lot of that was because of all the complicated R trigger right analog stick shenanigans that I had to go through. It was, 3-4 buttons just to pick something up and throw something and do a thing and all of
Mhm.
that. That was a little unfortunate. That was the only time where I truly was genuinely frustrated with where the controls really wouldn't do what I wanted them to do. And I thought about switching to motion controls for Kloctos,
Mhm.
but I love that fight.
I do too. It was hard sometimes because you have to get like close enough for him to stop throwing those like frisbee knives
Yeah.
at you. So it was a little tricky in that you had to get close enough for him to stop doing that, like so where he slammed his arm down and then he used the whip to like pull his arms off.
Mm-hmm.
But I always loved like I don't know why, but it felt realer fighting him. It's like the combination of the sound effects and like the vibrations, I think, and the controller where it feels like he is really heavy and significant.
That's a good point.
Carrying the giant sword
Yeah.
and like killing him with his own sword. You know, it's so much slower for Link to swing that because it is so much heavier. Like, excuse me, I just felt like it was a more believable boss, and like it felt realer, like more epic, like what you were saying for Scaldera.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because it was kind of epic. The camera angles aren't necessarily epic, but hiding behind a column and having to get smashed and disappear and stuff.
The boss itself is epic when he like all of a sudden has like 8 arms
Yeah.
now. Like, yeah, and he's just
Yeah.
like, sorry, you can't see me doing that.
I had full. It was a challenging battle for me. I think that the challenge was switching between the sword and the whip and all the R shenanigans, like I said.
Yeah.
But when you get it, but the stab function was really easy with the R stick. That was nice.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, it was fun. Even though I didn't do well the first time around, it's a fun battle. Because you don't really, it's weird. You don't feel, it's weird to say this, but you don't feel like the thing hates you because it's a robot. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like, oh my gosh, this crazy evil demon lizard is going to eat my face off. You know what I mean? And then you also don't feel bad like you're fighting something that was minding its own business anyway, like a Dodongo. But, yeah, it's good times. It's good times. You break down, there's a couple phases to this fight. I think there's almost 3.
Yeah.
You break some of the arms off. And what's the second phase then? Do you get it? Oh, it starts walking around. Remember, that is not walking around at first.
Yeah.
Phase 1, it's just stuck in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Then one of the phases, 2 or 3, it pops out and it has its
Mhm.
little legs.
That's when you have to cut his legs off. Yeah.
You cut the legs off.
That's
And then
fine.
is it the third phase that you start picking up the big swords? Or do you start doing that right from the beginning?
No, that's at the end.
Yeah, okay.
That's at the end. We did kind of skip over the Thunderhead before because that happens. You have to go to the Thunderhead before you go to the ancient cistern
Oh,
and
what?
like the Lake Floria and that kind of stuff.
Thunderhead must not be a dungeon because it's not in the
No.
encyclopedia here, but let's talk about it.
That's like where you learn your songs and you kind of go back to
Oh.
over and over.
Oh.
There's that puzzle where you have to rotate the parts of the island to get the bridge. Like that's another kind of like
That's a good point. Yeah,
Time waster.
the cloud sphere thing that you go
Yeah.
into.
yes, which is horrible. Every time I was flying toward that thing, I was like, this is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. If you put a beacon in there and you're flying toward it in the sky, you're like, well, okay, there's my beacon. I can see it from here.
Inside, like through the clouds?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's just, and then there within it, you go in there probably expecting like, this will be awesome. Nope. It's like 3 random islands.
3
again.
random islands. One island is kind of fun. It's like a bug chase island that
Right.
kind of is fun, like a little obstacle course.
Right.
But yeah, the Thunderhead, right. Oh, man, that one was a little underwhelming. Oof. Oof.
I know.
You're right. You get in there before you do these 3 dungeons. I think that's where you learn you have to power up your sword,
Right.
actually. We did kind of skip it.
Correct. Yeah.
And then you go back each time after these dungeons?
Yes. To learn another song.
That's right, learn a
Where
song. And then the
Fi sings at your face.
Fi ice skates up the walls and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. Yeah, okay.
But anywho,
I didn't mind the thunder thing for the Leviathan. That was fine, but we'll
Yeah.
talk about that when we get to it.
Yeah.
All right, so then now we're really technically the next dungeon is Sandship.
Yes.
We could talk a little bit about getting there, but I don't want to spend too much time on it because I think this episode might be getting a little long if we do that for everything.
Yep. I agree.
But you go back to. Do you get your hook shot at the end of?
You do get the claw shots after the Silent Realm. Oh god, we didn't even talk about the Silent
That's
Realms.
right. You get items from Silent Realm in this game.
Oh, I hate them so much.
So they were fine for me to play through. I wanted to note this. When I played it on the Wii, it was horrible. But I think that free camera changes everything. So you basically just zoom around, you see another beacon, and you basically run towards it. You know what I mean? When I was playing on the Wii, you're Z looking, so your character's, you can only snap your camera wherever your character's facing. I never missed a Silent Realm. I never missed a Silent Realm once in this playthrough, and I never even got caught once. So like this time around, they were easy. I was like, okay, let's just get this out of the way.
Mhm.
But that was not the case when I played it on the Wii 10 years ago. I would just like perish. I don't know. What was it like for you? Was it any different?
I use YouTube videos because I do not have the time or patience for a Silent Realm.
Saying like, go here first, then here, then here, then
I
here.
just follow it along
Yeah.
because I don't like it. It makes me very anxious. I don't enjoy them. I don't think they are fun in literally any kind of way. I like to read the YouTube comments on the videos where they're like, I hate this part. And I'm like, me too. The Elden one, I almost got caught so many times. I was going up the chute and down the hill and up the chute and down the hill and up
That's
the chute and
tricky.
down the hill over and over and over, where they were like trying to murder me for a straight minute. And finally I got like the one that's like before the death water section where it'll, trigger the enemies to find you. But it was, we don't need to speak of them.
Except we do have to note that you get items from them
Yes.
because that makes more sense. Then you get the hook shot, which allows you to do all the sand ship shenanigans and stuff like that.
Correct.
I love the sand ship as a dungeon.
Me too.
I love it. I think it's a nice little. Sometimes I'm not a fan when real world locations become dungeons. As much as I like the Yetis in Twilight Princess, I'm not a massive fan of their mansion being a dungeon personally. Even though I think it's cool and I think there's a lot of nice things going on in there. I kind of like my dungeons to feel like dungeons. This one doesn't feel like a dungeon. It feels like an old boat. But the fact that it tilts and moves and the way you're moving through it, I really enjoy this one.
Yeah, and I like sailing to get to it. I like that you have to kind of find it. It's invisible.
Yeah, that was tricky this time around.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was moving on the move.
Yeah.
So your douse moves. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
think you got it, and then all of a sudden your douse is pulling to the right or left. And you're like, what is happening?
Yeah. And I just like that they found a way to incorporate sailing in this one.
Yeah.
I liked it. I like a good sailing element.
Yeah, the mine carts before it, finding the ship, that's all fun. So
the mine carts.
The mine carts were pretty easy with the right analog stick. You just kind of push the direction.
But you'd get nothing from the mine carts. Like literally nothing.
I think you get like a key to the little robot's house or something, or a map. He needs a map to get somewhere. That's all it is. You get one. He says, we got to go get this piece of something, fragment of something. And then you douse over to it and you go through all the mine carts and you do get the piece of the thing. You bring it back to me. He goes, oh, great. Now I know where the ship is. Let's go. And you get a new marker on your map. Let's go there now.
I thought, for some reason, I remember him saying, oh, well, it's not here. Because you have to go to his house too, remember?
Yeah, the house. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get a thing to get in the house?
No, he takes you to his house. So you go to the minecart thing first, do all the minecart shenanigans, and he's like, oh, there was nothing here. Let's go check my house. And that's at the house is where you get.
I think you are right.
That's why I was
think
so
I didn't
mad.
want it to be true.
I was like, why did I just do all of that?
Yeah, you get to ride around in a fun minecart.
I mean, yeah, if it had a point.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get like rupees.
So you get back, so you go back, you do the whole, okay, fine. And then you go, okay, fine. All right.
It's
Well,
so
let's talk
bad.
about the sand ship.
Okay, let's
The sand ship has one of the coolest executions of the time stones in the entire game. There's a single time stone that basically turns the entire ship on or off,
Yes.
being in the past or the present. This time stone is way up on the, not the bow, the
crow's
staff.
nest?
Yeah, the crow's nest of this ship.
Yeah.
And it's big enough that it turns the whole ship into past or present. So all of a sudden, the whole game, you've been... So sometimes doors will be closed in the past and open in the present, and sometimes vice versa for game reasons. And up to this point, we've been using time stones to unlock things and reveal things. And if you needed to get through a door that was blocked in the past, you'd bring your time stone of present to it, and that door would just bring you to get through. This dungeon flips that completely.
Yep.
No longer can you can't move the time stone at all. You can only turn it on and off. And so all of a sudden it becomes a puzzle of line of sight, which is so much fun.
Yep.
It becomes a puzzle of like, well, it's an on and off switch. And honestly, some of my favorite things in the 2D Zeldas are when you hit these red and blue switches buttons that go up and down. They could be annoying, but actually I kind of like them. And they turn certain paths on and certain paths off, and you have to try to figure out which one might be the right way to do it. This dungeon, in my opinion, evokes that. You might be in a room that has a door that's open and a door that's closed, and you hit that time stone. First of all, even learning how to hit the time stone is super cool.
Right.
Like when you realize that you can take your arrow and shoot up through a grating,
Mhm.
100 feet up that just to get to the crow's nest, which you wouldn't even think to do in a Zelda game normally.
Right.
Then you start doing the puzzle, switching the doors. Cool stuff. I don't know. I've been talking a lot. How do you feel about
No,
all this?
I like it. I got, I think, a little lost and a little frustrated maybe a couple times, but for the most part, I agree with you. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I did like the battling the pirate captain on the gangplank kind of thing, where I had a much easier time this time than last time.
Yeah, me too. I don't know. Do you think they changed it a little? Because it was not that bad.
I think I just got into the right rhythm of like when to jump backwards and
I
like
see.
when to go after him and like reading his movements.
Hmm.
And then the final boss, Tantalus, is another one of those like
Straight from Monsters Incorporated 3.
cool idea, but the goofiest, like, just looks like a blob of I don't know. It looks like it's just wearing a funny hat.
Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be some kind of kraken kind of creature,
But
obviously.
It's so cartoonish.
It is. Now, I wonder if some of these bad guys have been cartoonified a little bit because both Miyamoto and, what was his name at the time? The guy who was president of America at the time. I can't remember his name, but it's okay. They both spoke to how Skyward Sword was supposed to be available for an entry level audience, like someone who's never played a Zelda game before. Younger kids, they wanted it to be accessible by all, and so I wonder if some of that. I mean, I know for a fact that when my sisters and I used to play Ocarina or even a little bit of Twilight, we were older. Certainly Ocarina. If a scary boss showed up, both of my sisters would throw the controller down
Yeah.
and say no. You know what I mean? Or Dave, you do it.
Yeah.
And I remember even actually with Kimberly, who I mentioned a few episodes ago, I'd say, you got to do it. You can do it. I believe in you. You got to do it. And they'd be so scared. And I think maybe I'm stretching, but maybe that's what's going on here a little bit.
Maybe.
Or they just had a crazy artistic director. I think maybe Kate, maybe it's a stretch, but that's the best I got. I'm trying to justify this Pixar monster.
Yes, I know. I liked the tentacles coming up through the floor. I liked the ship flooding and how you have to like escape the flooding ship.
Liked it too.
That's really cool. But then the last boss is like, okay, it is what it is. So then we have the last Silent Realm. Oh, not the last. Sorry, the third, because there is the Skyloft one.
Yeah, but yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, right. That felt like padding too, even though it was a little bit fun.
Mm-hmm.
But the Silent Realms didn't affect me as much in this game. I didn't mind them. But this is to get which item?
The Fire Shield earrings, so you can progress further into the Fire Sanctuary.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yes.
So that brings us to something that both of us kind of liked. I actually wanted to make a note of this. It brings us to the classic stealth Zelda moment, and there's definitely stealth Zelda back on the volcano. It was reinterpreted a little bit. I also kind of got a little bit of the whole Eventide Island vibe because you lose all your items and you have to get them back. It's a little bit more controlled in this game, but I was thinking to myself, so when I first landed. And to get to the Fire Sanctuary, it was basically very clear that I was going to be spending 20 minutes doing some kind of stealth thing. For the first few seconds, I thought, oh no. But then I started really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, I wonder if Kate's enjoying this because you're very clear about not liking stealth sections. So I'm fascinated. What was this like for you?
I mean, this wasn't an impossible stealth mission. I just like when they're really hard and it's like, one shot. You get one shot at it. And like if you're seen, like you have to start all over again. Similarly with Demise. I hate that kind of thing where it's unforgiving. Whereas this is just kind of, it wasn't that difficult, but it was still fun. Like it was fun to kind of creep around.
You could puzzle it.
Yeah.
It was very clear what creatures could see and couldn't see. Well, actually, I take that back. It was a little hard to tell if the bokoblins could see you through some of the fencing.
Yeah.
You're like, they can see me, but they couldn't for the programming,
Well, and the music would change too, like if you got too close to them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you can kind of tell there was some kind of like danger, like the danger was greater if you were, close enough to them.
I see.
I was annoyed that you had to find water you had to go back to the flipping water dragon to get water to pour onto the fire so you could go to the fire sanctuary. That was the time when I was like,
Yeah.
I can't anymore. Like, it's just, I mean, what we were already talking about, like the going back to where you've already been, fatigue was strong.
Getting the items back was fun. It was kind of fun that every item you got then helped. It was almost like a microcosm for a Zelda game in itself, this stealth area. Maybe that is why both you and I liked it. It wasn't just stealth. You could see hookshot things, but you didn't have your hookshot yet. But you could get your bombs at least. You could make your way to your bombs or something, and then at least you could use the bombs then to try to navigate this area to get to the hookshot, so to speak. And then once you got the hookshot, at least you could use that to get to your arrows or something. So every single time you got another item, every couple minutes you got another item, the whole area gets recontextualized yet again, and I think that was entertaining.
Yeah, I liked it. I like that it, like, you felt like you could do it in any order, but you kind of couldn't. Like, it did still guide you along.
Yeah, I think it was pretty linear.
Yeah, but it felt kind of, I don't know.
No, I agree
more
completely.
Exploratory.
I think that's what I'm speaking to, is that like you can see the whole area.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I could go. Okay, later I'll go there. Then I could go there, but I can't go there because I don't have the thing. So it was a mini Metroid game. It was really a mini Metroid game for that whole area. But yes, I think ultimately you had to go from one to the other to the other. So Fire Sanctuary. I only have one thing that really sticks out for me, and it was these crazy water fruit bulb things.
Oh my gosh.
Took me forever
Me
to
too.
figure out to throw it or whatever at the that one room. You got stuck in the room, right?
Yes.
All right. So how do we set this up for the episode?
In terms of how are we?
I mean, I was doing fine. We're going right now, but like I was doing fine in the Fire Sanctuary. You're kind of moving from thing to thing to thing. You get the frogs, activate the frog, whatever.
Oh yeah.
Oh, this is the one that's kind of in the canyon too. And there's some really good shootout moments in this one. Really good arrow moments where you're on a moving piece of lava, and
Yeah.
I felt like I was in an action game for a few times.
Yeah, where you have to like hit the switch, get the lava flowing on the other side. You're using your beetle, or maybe you're using your arrows. Like, I feel like there were a couple different ways of doing it.
I agree.
I don't have like a ton of memory of the Fire Sanctuary. Like, I feel like I just really hustled through this one.
I see.
But I know, yeah, I did like those parts where you're kind of riding the platforms, and
We had a little bit of our Wild West, quote unquote, Wild West moments where you're there would be bokoblins and maybe even some moblins all over the place, and you're just like
yeah.
just arrow, and you're just trying to take out like 6 or 7 of them before they get you. A lot of fun there. This is a case where the dungeon went a little bit like the Sky Temple or whatever it's called, not Sky Temple, but in Twilight Princess when you go up to the Ukos. It's a dungeon, but it doesn't feel like a classic dungeon because you're not just in caves and tunnels. This dungeon for me, I had a lot. I loved kind of being in the canyon and seeing forward to the other bridges, but not really knowing how to get there yet. All of that was kind of cool.
There's all the digging underground.
Hit and miss for me with that.
Yeah, I didn't like that you had to basically just use up all your stamina every single time to try to beat the little, like, I don't know, little
Crawly guys.
Yep.
Yeah, you could
Squirmy worms.
You could trick them to see you, and if they bumped their head, they would slow down. I
Right.
learned later on.
Right.
But it was fine. The going into the puzzles or climbing, you get advanced mitts, and you actually use those a little bit in the Elden thing too. We should point out when you're doing your stealth stuff. Yeah, that was like medium for me. But my favorite parts of the Fire Temple were kind of all of a sudden we had some action moments. All of a sudden we had a lot of fun, a little bit of hookshot. Whenever you get hookshot, it's always a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of the second half of the dungeon, because the first half really is those bridges. What's your boss here?
Girahim again. The second Girahim.
That's right.
So this one is more, I had more fun on this Girahim battle than the first
too.
one. It was just more fun to go after him. I don't recall really a difference between the first and the second when I did the boss rush mode. Like if either of the Girahim battles came up, I was like, okay, fine.
Okay.
But this one was better, I
see.
think. Although I did have trouble when, I think this is the one where he sends like the little spiny guys towards you, like in a kind of, they surround you and they all get into you.
Yes.
As many times as I tried to evade them, I got hit like every single time.
I think you just do your power your circle slash thing, right?
Oh, I did not try that.
Actually, you helped me remember something just now. So on the Pro controller, to do the circle slash, the classic like circle thing,
Yeah.
you have to go left, right, real fast, or right, left, real fast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. What is it like? You just do that with your. I don't even know how you do it on motion controls, but maybe you just waggle back and forth real fast. So I was doing it so much in this Girahim fight that sometimes I would have to go from. I would take my right hand off the controller, and like Mario Party almost have to put my palm on the right stick and go back and forth real fast. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Because you do it so much to get those things out of there. But anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was trying to jump away from them, and then they would obviously get me every time. So that's good to know.
Yeah, this Girahim battle doesn't stick out for me too much. It was quicker than the first Girahim battle for me playing it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And there was a moment where I thought, like, oh, is this the last Girahim battle? I was like, I thought it was bigger than this.
Nope. Although the last one was the easiest for me, oddly enough.
I took the most well, we'll get there. Yeah, so Fire Sanctuary, we finally get our third thing we need to have our sword fully powered up or whatever, our third song.
Mm-hmm.
Then we are the little interim before Skyview is that there's the Leviathan situation, isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was cool.
Yeah.
I kind of liked him. It almost made the cloud sphere worth it. Like I was okay.
Yeah, it was all right.
I said almost.
I like the design. I liked his big weird head plate.
Well, I thought, why this is such a strange design is what I thought when I saw him. But then I realized, oh, he's an island.
Right.
We're gonna land on him.
Right.
And then obviously that's why they need the big huge crown plate thing.
Right. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
I liked
you do
his singing.
The trippy, for me a little frustrating trippy kind of like go grow the fruit. No, the fruit was for that other dragon. Oh, that was a rough one.
Oh yeah.
Take the fruit, take it back. It was so obvious that you planted in the spot until the time that I was just like, all right, let's just get over this. Let's just get back.
Right.
But no, he needs something from you. What does he need? What does Leviathan need? I'm having a hard time remembering. It's water, or he needs a plant. He needs fruit.
I thought he needed
A drink.
medicine.
He needed medicine, and then you go to the rainbow. You go to the Rainbow Island and like give it to him, and maybe you get this medicine from the Lumpy Pumpkin or something.
That
We are
sounds
recalling this
right-ish.
game the way a person recalls a nightmare.
I mean, yeah. I needed medicine from the pumpkin to bring to the fish in the sky. What?
Well, okay. So anyway, yeah, the Leviathan stuff happens, and he gives you the rest of the song, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And you know the whole song. Now you're super cool, and somehow you get that other bird eye, the gem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember how I even got that gem. Maybe the Leviathan gives it to you. Maybe you open it up some way. But that does reveal Skyview, the dungeon, which is underneath the big, I call it the Breath of the Wild statue, but it's really the Skyward Sword statue.
Mm-hmm.
This was fun. This was kind of neat. When it all fell away, it felt like a reverse.
Yeah.
It felt to me almost like the reverse of Ganon's castle crumbling in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Like this is a good thing. Things are crumbling away.
Yeah.
And we have an upside down, not really upside down, but kind of upside down spiral dungeon that reveals itself.
Right. Skykeep.
We get the red bird gem from the Silent Realm thing in Skyloft. I just remembered. So when we hit our fourth Silent Realm, I thought, oh, of course you're going to put one on Skyloft because you're running out of places to put these things.
Right.
And heaven forbid you build another area. And I thought, okay, fine, we're going to run around Skyloft now. Though some of the placement of some of them I had some fun with. I kind of liked going out on the beams in a kind of a scary way down at the bottom of Skyloft. You know, some of them I was okay with.
Yeah.
That one went kind of quickly.
Oh, Silent Realm. I don't have anything positive to say about those.
So we go into Skykeep.
Yes.
And I'm going to guess, I can't tell yet. As I played Skykeep, I was like, Kate is either loving this or hating this right now. She's all in or totally out. What was it like for you?
Oh, Kate cheated her way through this.
So you were basically out.
I was out. I was out on the moving the puzzle pieces
That's
around.
what I thought might happen.
Hated it. I just hated that you had to do it so many times.
Yeah.
I tried it once on my own. I'm like, I'm just gonna try to do this all by myself. Immediately got stuck, and I was like, nope, I don't have patience for this.
That's cool. I don't want to, sometimes we do the whole like David does things different than Kate does things different than Dave. I loved this dungeon. I loved moving the tiles. I would try to think of my moves like 4 or 5 moves ahead. I started thinking, I'll go if I go to this room, then I can move those 4 tiles. The only thing that's a little rough is the tiles on the tool that you use to move the walls don't necessarily really reflect some of the rooms. Some of the tiles will show parts of the Triforce, but so that got a little tricky.
Yeah.
There were a few times where I thought I was proper stuck, but it's like when you play the tile games on the computer or on, you slide the 4 tiles around. Loved it. I thought, oh my gosh, I get to play a tile game and it actually becomes a dungeon. I was into it.
I like tile games when they're just tile games, and I like dungeons when they're just dungeons. Can't we just keep it to that? But no, I did like that you had aspects of all the previous dungeons in there, which is another Zelda trope, right?
Mhm.
They kind of make you do that over again, or they
Very Ocarina of Time.
Yes. So they theme a certain room after something you've already done. So that's cool. It's fine. I would have liked it without the tiles.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think it would have been fine without it. But yeah, that was definitely another challenging aspect for sure.
Some good puzzles inside each room.
Mhm.
Some good proper level up puzzles. There were some advanced maneuvers. There was stuff where you were putting a time stone on a thing and then you had to whip a switch and then time it just right so you could shoot with your arrows into some gems. And then, I did notice it was very clear that in this dungeon you were doing they were asking advanced assumptions of you, advanced techniques, which I thought was cool. I could have gone through 2 more of those kinds of dungeons. Not necessarily the tiles, but like the slightly more advanced concepts.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed Skyview.
Yeah, I would have, again, without the tiles. I
Yeah.
liked whenever I had just gotten to the room, then I was not cheating. Let's be clear. I was
see.
only cheating with the tiles.
I see. Well, my least favorite part of Skyview was some of the recycled bosses and mid-bosses or whatever. Some of the recycled mid-bosses, the fighting the pirate guy again was like,
Right.
I didn't really, that wasn't exciting, you
Right.
know? But it was fine. I kept expecting to have to fight more of these mid-bosses showing up.
Yeah,
It was
no.
weird. It was kind of inconsistent.
No main boss either.
Yeah.
Just kind of is what it is.
But you get your 3 Triforces. And I got
Yes.
a little emotional seeing those things.
No.
I don't know if it felt the same for you, but to see them glowing like that, we haven't seen Triforces in quite a while. Certainly we didn't really see them like that in Breath of the Wild or anything like that. It was a little... In fact, I did have a moment where I got to the first one and I literally called Ginxie over, from the office. She was so polite about it, but I was like, honey, look, Triforce of Courage. Or whatever it was. Here's the first one, and I just I'm associating all these emotions to this glowing triangle.
She's
And
like,
she,
okay.
well, she totally gave me this. Oh, I'm happy for you, hon. And I thought, oh boy.
Nerd alert.
But it was cool. They were rendered really nicely. They were glowing and all the rest. It was kind of fun. So then we get Skyview smashing down into Farron Woods. We understand why there's a reverse spiral into the Demise area. We defeat Demise by having Skyview crush him.
Right, that version of him. Yep.
Yeah. And then we think all is well.
Yep. Nope.
But it's not, because in the
Yep,
past, Girahim basically tells... Do we fight Girahim in the present or the past? Because this is where the Girahim battle... No, I think it happens in the past.
Yes, in
They're
the
like,
past, yes.
Basically, Girahim's like, cool, you crushed him for now, but guess what? Yeah, that's what it is. You go into the Temple of Time, and
Impa's there.
and Impa's there, and all the cool stuff's happening, but then Girahim shows up, and he says, guess what? I'm going to the past where I can still bring
Him
Demise
back.
out.
Yep.
I didn't need to mess with any of this stuff. Should have done it from the beginning in the past. And he goes back, and then basically Link. At this point, Link's all in. He's definitely a hero. You can see it in his emotions. He knows what he needs to do. Groose is on board. Impa believes in him. Those are some good stuff. So then we travel back in time with Link, and there is this kind of gauntlet down to. So Girahim's down in the spiral down there.
Yep.
I don't need to do a full play-by-play, but we do this kind of gauntlet thing that I know you've talked about in the past that you didn't care for. I didn't love it either.
Oh, the gauntlet that I hated before was the boss rush mode, the gauntlet of bosses to get the Hylian shield. So that's the one that I hated when you had to
I
go.
never got the Hylian shield.
Oh,
I've got one that has like a Fee logo on it.
there are different shields. So there's the goddess shield and there's the Hylian shield and all this.
I think I have the goddess shield. What are you talking about? You're blowing my mind.
So-
Because honestly, I did think to myself, this this enemy rush that Kate hates so much isn't that bad. It's just a bunch of bokoblins and moblins.
Yeah, no. So this is with the desert dragon guy.
Yes.
So if you go back to him after he's all healthy and great, you go back to him later. He's like, "Oh, welcome back. I have this challenge for you.
What?
If you want to beat all these bosses in a row, you cannot have any potions like with you. You can't take any
Right.
potions with you. You only have the weapons that you had at the time that you beat the boss originally there. So you can't like use any weapons later for an earlier boss."
Oh
And
my
he
gosh.
randomly picks them. And he's like, "Well, where do you want to start?" And you can choose like, "Oh, a boss from earlier or later." And then he'll be like, "Okay, which of these bosses do you want to start with?"
Wow.
And then after you pick the one to start with, which I would always pick a demise one just to get one of those done with, he would just pick them randomly after that.
Wow.
And after every one, you can't regenerate your hearts. You're just stuck with the hearts that you have. There are like within the boss battles, like if there are the pots there, you can break the pots to get hearts. So not all of them have those though.
Okay.
That's the only way you can regenerate health. So you better have like all the hearts to even attempt this in the first place. After every one, he's like, "Okay, do you want to keep going or do you want like 50 rupees? Do you want to keep going or do you want like 100 rupees?"
Oh, I see.
And then you have to do, I think, like 8 different bosses to
Oh,
get
wow.
the Hylian shield.
You're blowing my mind. I had no idea. I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah. So I spent like literally hours trying to do this because I felt like that shield, everything I was reading online was like, you're going to need this shield for the final boss. It's the most useful one. Like it's the easiest one to have.
I 100% did a lot once Girahim and on Demise and the rest. There was a lot of me like just running around waiting for my shield to heal back up. I think like half of my time was spent just like running around waiting for my goddess shield to heal back up.
Yeah,
so
this
maybe there's some
one
truth to that.
Does not need to heal. It's just awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the part that I hated. So I'm like,
But you
well,
don't have to play it apparently. I mean, you kind of do, but you don't have to.
I don't
Interesting.
have to, but I felt like I had to get
completely
this
missed it.
shield to
I want to go back and get it.
do it.
All right, cool.
You'll hate it.
This makes a lot more sense now. But yeah, you go down and we do our Girahim fight, our final Girahim fight. I think I liked this fight. I think I liked it a lot.
I liked it except for when you had to do all the like the final strikes
Oh right.
because that was just so hard. I was shaking my controllers.
Shaking
It just would not do it. So there were a couple where I would have definitely I would have beaten him sooner if I had gotten those final
I see.
strikes correct.
It's just down up on that R stick. Just down up.
Yeah. But I did like getting him, flinging him off the
Yeah, like to the next
platform.
level. And
Yeah.
it was kind of dramatic.
yeah.
How do you feel about his new look, or his real look? I guess.
Yeah, it's like
I love that he was
black and
shaded
scary, yeah.
the way Fi was.
Yeah,
Like the shade, the glossiness. He
Mm-hmm.
was black, but he looked like her. Honestly.
I like it. I think he, like you said, becomes fully unhinged at that point,
Mhm.
and then he sacrifices himself. That seems to be, or I guess he doesn't really sacrifice
He's kind of
himself.
like, "Master, you're here. Finally,
Yeah,
take me."
and then and then Demise is like, "Okay,
Mhm.
you're mine now."
Gee, thanks.
Which is Zant is kind of the similar type of thing where a minion of
Yeah.
the main evil being.
Going into Demise, I thought it was hysterical. I know why it exists, but it was so funny. Like, so I finished the Girahim fight, and it goes right into Demise cutscenes,
Mhm.
And I was thinking, my heart was racing. It's like, oh my gosh, we're really getting up to the top of this game. Holy moly, am I even going to be able to turn back? Oh my gosh, they're really going to go Girahim straight into Demise? Oh my gosh, Demise is terrifying. And then then Demise goes like, "So when you're ready, I'll be here," and he jumps back down into his little portal
Bye.
thing, and it's they do that so that you can still go play the rest of the game if you still want to power up and come back for Demise. I get it,
Mhm.
and I actually did go back to Skyloft and level up a few things, grab a few extra potions and stuff like that. But it's just so funny. He's like, "I'll kill everything. All of you you'll be the end of everything. So you know where I am, and I'm here when you need to do that."
I literally said the same thing in my notes. I said it was nice of Demise to be like, "Go ahead, save your game, get more potions. I'll wait. I'll wait here. Just go ahead. I'll wait. I'm just gonna crawl into this little hole in the ground, and you can just come find me when you're ready. Just go take advantage of all the time I'm gonna give you. I'm literally not gonna do anything in this little hole in the ground until you want to come and fight me. Otherwise, I'm just gonna hang out."
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure makes sense.
I know. So the demise fight.
Yes.
I loved the graphics. I loved how he's like pulsing in and out. His skin is pulsing and stuff like that. He's obviously super egotistical. He obviously thinks you're just an insignificant bug, which will be his demise. Let's talk about it.
Took me 2 tries, the final battle. And again, the shield, I think, was definitely helping me in that regard.
Yeah.
Because I didn't spend the time running around.
A lot of backward circle strafing for me. Like just kind of slowly spiraling away while the shield recharges.
I pretty much just the first time, between the first and second time, I had to figure out how to like block one of his attacks that would really get you. I had to learn how to dodge it, when the timing was right to dodge it.
Right.
And so once I kind of got the understanding of that, and the second time around, I beat him, and I was like, "Oh, that's it. Okay."
Must have been that shield.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of skyward striking. That was a little bit of a challenge for me. I think you
catch the lightning. And then
that's what it was, right?
You have to shoot it back at him. Yeah. I did like that they didn't do the tennis match. Endless tennis match.
Is there any tennis matching in Skyward Sword at all? Is maybe one of the Girihims?
I mean, you can the shield action, like you can send something back, but it's not over and over and over and over. That's kind of the one that I mean, like that Ocarina of Time had so much. Yeah.
I think the closest is Girihim shooting the spiky things at you, and then the way they Skyward Sword version it is that you're going to do an angle or a direction. I think that's the closest there is to any kind of volleyball at all.
Yeah.
In this game.
But I like that. I don't need it. They don't need to do it every time. But I liked the final battle. I liked the final cutscenes. I was like, finally, I've beaten a game that I've never beaten before.
Yeah, it was
so
cool.
I was pretty proud of myself. So what grade would you give this game if you had to give it like a letter?
Oh, we did this once before for another one, didn't we? Was it Minish Cap or something?
Probably. It's difficult. So
before Skyward Sword HD came out, back in season 1 or whatever, I would say to you, I want to love Skyward Sword. And the reasons I didn't love it was the motion controls were a little difficult for me, and I didn't love the low resolution on the art style.
Mm-hmm.
We can critique some of the filler that happens in this game. That's a little unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was less filler, but I like being in this game. I liked being in it. I liked so playing the HD version, the graphics were 100% fixed for me.
Mm-hmm.
The motion controls were like 90% fixed for me. I didn't mind playing with the pro controls. Some minor inconveniences here and there is all it chalked up to.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked being in the game. I liked going to the areas. And so my only gripe still is a little bit of the structure of the returning stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if that equals a grade, if Breath of the Wild is an A, not an A+, an A+ for me would be like some conventional dungeons in there.
Mm-hmm.
But if Breath of the Wild were an A, and I think for me,
he's thinking.
Yeah, I am. I think this is. So this is right in there with Wind Waker for me. And for some reasons, I like this more than Wind Waker. And for some reasons, I care for it a little less. And so that's what I'm trying to process right now. Because I think Wind Waker is kind of like a solid C for me.
Mm-hmm.
So is this a B? Is Twilight Princess kind of a B? Maybe an A-, whatever our metric is.
Mm-hmm.
Boy. I don't know.
I vote C.
Yeah.
For
you?
this one. C+ with HD.
Yeah. I would go a little. Then maybe I'll go with B based on that because I was able to tolerate some of the things that were filler were a little more tolerable this time around for me for some reason.
Yeah.
I still don't like that they're there, but I could just get them out of the way. The Sacred Realms and the whatevers. Running back and forth, a little annoying, but it's fine. I genuinely wish that instead of going back to 3 places 3 times, we at least went to like 6 places once or even twice or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would have been nice.
Yep.
I would have that would have brought this up into almost maybe like Twilight Princess territory for me. Not as good as Twilight Princess, but like up in there for me.
Okay.
Truly. I guess I'll go with a B. I guess it's a B. I don't know. we're grading games now.
Yep. Well, I mean, just yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean now as in like I don't want to. I get it. But I feel like we got to go back to some of those other ones and like do a recap on those then.
Yeah. And that's just us, us grading our very subjective opinions.
I mostly liked this game. I think there were parts that you liked a little less of it than I did, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fine. Mm-hmm. All right, it was fine. Thanks for listening to us talk about it for 2 hours.
Yeah, because and then I've gone back to, in the middle of this, I've gone back into Twilight Princess HD because I recently got my Wii U plugged into the main TV in the living room, and it's great. It's great, but you can see some of Twilight Princess flaws too. I tell you what, the Sacred Realm equivalent in Twilight Princess is brutal compared to the Sacred Realm in Skyward Sword. When you have to go find all your gems and your beads, brutal in Twilight Princess. Yeah. I was doing the Lake Hylia one the other day.
Yeah.
One of them was in Castletown.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
And maybe we just didn't notice it at the time.
It's less like anxiety ridden and like scary, and
you're right.
more just frustrating and tedious.
Right. It's not scary.
Yeah, I get you.
I wish Skyward. Okay, here it is. I wish Skyward Sword were bigger. That's the easiest part.
I agree.
Wish it were bigger, but what's there
concur.
I like. I'm grateful. So like basically, what is it? So in Wind Waker, to pad the second half, you do the fetch quest. Mm-hmm. In Skyward Sword, to pad the second half, you go back to the first half. Which one's better? Which one's worse? So I think Skyward Sword and Wind Waker are in a similar place for me.
I agree.
There it is.
All right, hot takes complete.
Woo! All right, Kate. I know we know what we're doing next, but we're not getting together for a couple weeks. I can't remember the next thing we're talking about. But thanks for doing this review episode. We haven't done a review episode in almost 2 years.
Yeah.
This has turned into a very long episode.
Yes. Sometimes they need it though. There's a lot to talk about.
I think we did an hour and a half just on the dungeons, honestly.
Dang.
We did a pretty deep dive on this one though. We went pretty detailed.
Yep.
With this one. And let's see, if people want to share their thoughts about Skyward Sword with you, where can they find you?
I am on the Instagrams at I only take cat and dog pics. Because that's what I do.
There it is. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Raptor Paint. The show is on Twitter at Another Zelda Pod and Instagram Another Zelda Podcast. You can go to our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com, to find links to all of our previous episodes, some blog posts, some other stuff. Our Discord is over there. Some of our merch is over there. And I think since we've been chatting for a long, long time, I'll leave it at that.
All right.
Get us out of here. Okay, the next review episode we do is going to be you and I, and it's going to be Oracle of Ages.
Yes.
I hope it's going well for you so far.
Yes.
All right.
Excited.
Cool. All right. Kate, I'll see you then.
Okay. Bye.